The moment Ethan Carter recognized the woman walking toward his table, he knew this blind date was about to become a disaster. Not just any disaster, a career-ending, pride-crushing catastrophe. Because sitting across from him, looking equally horrified, was Victoria Hale, his boss's boss. The billionaire CEO whose latest cost-cutting measures had turned his department into a pressure cooker. The woman he'd called heartless in last week's staff meeting. Stay with me until the end of this story, hit that like button, and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this tale travels. Ethan's phone buzzed for the third time in 5 minutes. He didn't need to check it. He already knew it was his sister, probably sending another "You've got this" text with far too many exclamation points and thumbs-up emojis. Sarah meant well. She always meant well. That was the problem. He sat in his truck outside Romano's, a mid-tier Italian place with checkered tablecloths and candles that flickered in red glass holders. The kind of restaurant that tried hard to be romantic without quite pulling it off. Through the window, he could see couples leaning across tables, wine glasses catching the light. Normal people having normal dates. He wasn't normal anymore. Hadn't been since the divorce. Hadn't been since Emma came into his life full-time, a whirlwind of soccer practice and homework battles and bedtime stories that somehow made the rest of the chaos worthwhile. The clock on his dashboard read 7:58 p.m. He had 2 minutes before officially being late. His daughter was with Sarah tonight, probably already hopped up on ice cream and whatever Disney movie his sister had queued up. Emma would be fine. Sarah was good with her. Better than he was at this whole parenting thing, if he was honest. But sitting here, about to walk into a blind date he'd never wanted, Ethan felt the familiar weight of inadequacy settling over his shoulders like a wet coat. "Just 2 hours," he muttered, killing the engine. "Smile. Be polite. Tell Sarah you tried." The restaurant's warmth hit him the moment he stepped inside. A wall of garlic, tomato sauce, and bread that almost made him forget how bone-tired he was. Almost. The hostess, a college-aged girl with a name tag that read Brianna, smiled at him with the practiced enthusiasm of someone working for tips. "Reservation?" she asked. "Carter, should be a table for 2. She scanned her list, then brightened. "Right this way." The table was in the back corner. Private, Sarah had probably requested. Thoughtful of her. The kind of detail his sister would think of because she still believed in romance, still thought everyone deserved a second chance at happiness. Ethan had stopped believing in second chances somewhere between the divorce papers and Emma's first parent-teacher conference that his ex-wife hadn't bothered showing up to. He ordered water. The waitress, older than the hostess, with tired eyes that suggested she understood exactly how he felt, nodded and disappeared. Ethan checked his phone. 8:03. His date was late. Good. Maybe she'd bail entirely. He could sit here for 20 minutes, order something to go, and tell Sarah he'd been stood up. She'd feel bad for him. Stop pushing, at least for a while. The front door opened, letting in a gust of October wind and a woman who made Ethan's stomach drop straight through the floor. No. No, no, no. Victoria Hale walked into Romano's like she walked into every room, with the kind of confidence that came from knowing she was the smartest person there. Tailored black coat, dark hair pulled back in a way that probably cost more than his truck payment. She was scanning the restaurant, clearly looking for someone. Ethan's first instinct was to hide. Duck under the table, sprint for the bathroom, fake a medical emergency. Anything to avoid what was about to happen. But then their eyes met. He watched the recognition hit her, watched her expression shift from mild curiosity to confusion to something that looked a lot like horror. Her step faltered, just for a second. Then she recovered, because of course she did. Victoria Hale didn't do visible weakness. She walked toward his table. Every step felt like a countdown to detonation. "You have got to be kidding me," she said when she reached him. Not a question. A statement of pure disbelief. Ethan stood, because his mother had raised him with manners, even if the universe had a sick sense of humor. "Ms. Hale." "Mr. Carter." Her voice was ice. "I assume this is some kind of mistake." "You think I planned this?" The words came out sharper than he intended. "You think I wanted to spend my night off having dinner with the person who's made my job a living nightmare for the past 6 months?" A couple at the next table glanced over. Victoria's jaw tightened. She pulled out the chair across from him and sat down with precise, controlled movements. Keep your voice down, she said quietly. We're in public. Right. Wouldn't want anyone to think the great Victoria Hale actually has to deal with the consequences of her decisions face to face. Her eyes flashed. Excuse me? The waitress appeared with impeccable timing. Can I get you started with drinks? Water, Victoria said without looking at her. Please. I'll give you folks a few minutes with the menu, the waitress said, backing away like she could sense the tension. Silence fell over the table. Ethan couldn't believe this was happening. Of all the women in the city, Sarah had set him up with Victoria Hale. His sister didn't even work in the corporate world. How had she managed to accidentally arrange the most awkward date in human history? How did this happen? Victoria asked, echoing his thoughts. She'd pulled out her phone, was scrolling through something with sharp, angry swipes. My sister set it up. Yours? My best friend from college. Victoria's mouth pressed into a thin line. Rebecca, she's been trying to, She stopped herself, shook her head. This is absurd. Agreed. I'm leaving. Good idea. But neither of them moved. Victoria looked at him, really looked at him, for what felt like the first time since she'd walked in. You look terrible. Thanks. You look like you're about to fire someone. I might. Get in line. Another beat of silence. Then Victoria set her phone down on the table with a deliberate click. If I leave, Rebecca will never let me hear the end of it. She'll say I sabotaged myself, that I'm too rigid, too closed off. Sarah will cry, Ethan said flatly. She'll give me the speech about how I'm not even trying to move on, how Emma needs to see me happy. Emma? My daughter, she's 6. Something shifted in Victoria's expression, just slightly. I didn't know you had a daughter. Why would you? You don't exactly make a habit of learning about the people who work for you. The barb landed. He saw it in the way her shoulders stiffened. That's not fair. Isn't it? You cut our department's budget by 30%, reduced staff, increased quotas. You know what my life has been like since you took over? I leave for work before Emma wakes up. I get home after her bedtime 3 nights a week. I'm running on coffee and spite. You think I don't work? Victoria's voice was dangerously quiet. You think I sit in my office making arbitrary decisions for fun? I think you make decisions without understanding what they actually mean for the people affected by them. And I think you're so busy feeling sorry for yourself that you can't see the bigger picture. The waitress appeared again, definitely regretting her choice to serve this table. Are we ready to? No, they said in unison. She fled. Ethan rubbed his face. This was a disaster. Worse than a disaster. He should leave, just stand up, throw some cash on the table for the water and get out of here before he said something that got him fired. But Victoria spoke first. 1 hour. He looked up. What? We stay for 1 hour, order food, eat, make it look like we tried. Then we can both tell our respective meddlers that it didn't work out, and they'll leave us alone. You want to have dinner together, after... He gestured vaguely at the space between them, at the tension thick enough to cut. After this? I want Rebecca to stop setting me up on blind dates. I assume you want the same from your sister. You assume correctly. Then we have a shared goal. Victoria picked up her menu. 1 hour. We can be civil for 1 hour. Ethan wanted to argue, wanted to tell her that sitting across from her for 60 minutes sounded about as pleasant as a root canal. But she had a point. Sarah wouldn't stop unless she thought he'd genuinely tried. Fine, he said. 1 hour. Then we never speak about this again. Agreed. They opened their menus. Ethan couldn't focus on the words. Lasagna, carbonara, something with eggplant. It all blurred together. Across from him, Victoria appeared to be reading with intense concentration, like choosing the right pasta was a matter of national security. The chicken marsala is good here, he said, surprising himself. She glanced up. You've been here before? Sarah dragged me here for my birthday last year, insisted I needed to get out more. He managed a grim smile. Apparently that's still her position. Rebecca thinks I've forgotten how to connect with people. Victoria's tone was carefully neutral. She says I treat everything like a transaction. Do you? I treat things like what they are. Business is business. Relationships are relationships. Mixing them causes problems. And yet here we are. Here we are, she agreed. The waitress returned, notepad ready, expression carefully blank. They ordered chicken marsala for him, some kind of seafood pasta for her, a bottle of wine that Victoria selected with the same precision she probably used for corporate acquisitions. When the wine arrived, Ethan poured for both of them. His hand was steady, at least. Small victories. How old is your daughter? Victoria asked. The question caught him off guard. 6, almost 7. What's she like? He couldn't read her expression. Couldn't tell if she was genuinely curious or just making conversation to fill the silence. Loud, he said finally. Stubborn. Thinks she can negotiate her bedtime like it's a business deal. A ghost of a smile crossed Victoria's face. Sounds exhausting. It is. He took a drink of wine. It's also the best part of my life. You raise her alone? Her mother's not in the picture, hasn't been for a while. He didn't elaborate. Didn't mention the addiction, the vanishing act, the custody battle that had drained his savings and his faith in the legal system. So yeah, just me. Victoria was quiet for a moment. That can't be easy. It's not, but complaining about it doesn't change anything. Is that why you resent me? Because the budget cuts made your already difficult life harder? Straight to the point. No dancing around it. You should have expected that from her. Partly, he admitted. You want honesty? Fine. Yes. Every decision you've made since taking over has made my job harder. Longer hours, more pressure, less support. And for what? So the quarterly earnings look good? So shareholders get a bigger dividend? You think it's that simple? I think you see numbers on a spreadsheet. I live with the consequences. Victoria's fingers tightened around her wine glass. The company was hemorrhaging money when I took over. Hemorrhaging. We were 6 months from bankruptcy, Ethan. 6 months from everyone losing their jobs, not just facing budget cuts. He blinked. That wasn't in any of the emails, any of the meetings. What? The previous leadership had made a series of catastrophic decisions. Bad investments, worse contracts. When the board brought me in, I had 2 choices. Make painful cuts now, or watch the entire company collapse. Why didn't you tell anyone? Because panic doesn't help productivity. Because people work better when they're not constantly afraid of being unemployed. She met his eyes. I made the choices I had to make. I'm not apologizing for saving the company. Even if it meant making people's lives miserable? Even then, her voice was hard. You think I liked it? You think I enjoyed cutting positions? Reducing benefits? I spent 3 months combing through every department, every budget line, trying to find a way to make it work with minimal damage. There wasn't one. So I did what had to be done. Ethan processed this. Tried to reconcile it with the image he'd built of her over the past months. The ice queen in the executive suite, making decisions from on high without a thought for the people below. You could have explained, could have been transparent about why. And caused a mass exodus? People jumping ship to competitors, taking their knowledge and skills with them? No. She shook her head. I needed everyone to stay focused, stay working. The explanation comes later when we're stable. We're not exactly stable now. We're getting there, she paused. The worst is over. The next quarter you'll see changes, better changes. Should I feel reassured that my life might return to merely difficult instead of impossible? You should feel reassured that you still have a job. The food arrived, interrupting before he could respond. The waitress set down their plates with the efficiency of someone who desperately wanted this table to turn over quickly. The chicken marsala looked good, smelled good. Ethan's stomach reminded him he hadn't eaten since a granola bar at lunch. They ate in silence for a few minutes. The restaurant buzzed around them. Other conversations, other lives, other people who weren't trapped in the world's most awkward dinner. You called me heartless, Victoria said suddenly. Ethan nearly choked on his wine. What? Last week, staff meeting. You didn't think I'd hear about it, but I did. Heat crept up his neck. I was frustrated. You were right. That stopped him. What? She set down her fork with precise care. I know what people think of me. I'm not oblivious, the ice queen, the robot, the woman who only cares about profit margins. A pause. They're not entirely wrong, Victoria. I became what I needed to be, she continued, to survive in a world that didn't want me there. Do you know how many times I've been the only woman in the room, the youngest person at the table? I learned early that showing emotion is perceived as weakness, that caring too much makes you vulnerable. So I stopped showing it, stopped caring, or at least stopped letting anyone see me care. Ethan didn't know what to say. This wasn't the Victoria Hale he'd built up in his head. This was something else. Someone else. But you were right, she said quietly. I've become so good at not feeling that I forgot how to see the people behind the numbers. Forgot that every percentage point I cut represents someone's life, someone's family. Someone like you, working yourself to exhaustion to keep things together. I shouldn't have called you heartless. Why not, if the shoe fits? Because it doesn't. Not entirely. He pushed pasta around his plate. You took a failing company and saved it. That's not heartless. That's hard. There's a difference? Yeah, heartless would have been walking away, letting it fail. You stayed, you fought, He struggled for the words. You fought without explaining why, and that made you the villain in everyone's story. Victoria absorbed this. I'm not used to explaining myself. I noticed. A small smile. You're not what I expected either. What did you expect? I don't know. Someone softer, maybe. Someone who'd spend the night complaining about work without offering solutions. I have solutions, Ethan said. I've sent 3 emails to management with proposals for improving efficiency without sacrificing quality. Never got a response. Victoria pulled out her phone. What's your employee ID? He told her. She typed something, scrolled, frowned. I don't see any proposals in the system. I sent them to my direct supervisor. He said he'd pass them up the chain. When? 4 months ago. Her jaw tightened. What's your supervisor's name? Brian Hendricks. More typing. Her frown deepened. He never forwarded them. Any of them. Ethan felt something cold settle in his chest. Are you serious? Dead serious. They're sitting in his inbox, marked as read, never sent higher. She looked up. Do you still have copies? Probably. In my sent folder at work. Forward them to me, directly, tomorrow. Victoria. Those budget cuts I made? They were based on the assumption that every department had been given the chance to optimize internally first. If your supervisor buried viable improvement proposals, she bit off the rest of the sentence. Forward them to me. They ate in silence again, but it felt different now. Less hostile. More like 2 people taking measure of each other, recalibrating assumptions. Why did your friend set you up? Ethan asked eventually. You don't seem like someone who has trouble meeting people. Victoria laughed. It was a bitter sound. Meeting people is easy. Finding ones who see past the money, the position, the reputation, that's harder. What do they see instead? A meal ticket, a networking opportunity, a trophy. She took a long drink of wine. Rebecca thinks I need someone who knew me before all this, someone who doesn't care about the corporate ladder. But I do work for you. Not directly. And tonight proved you're not afraid to call me out. Another pause. That's rarer than you'd think. Probably because most people don't want to risk their jobs. Is that why you did it? Because you don't care if I fire you? Ethan considered this. Partly. Also because I'm too tired to be afraid anymore. Emma needs me present, needs me functional. I can't do that if I'm constantly worried about saying the wrong thing to the wrong person. What happened to her mother? Victoria asked. Then quickly, sorry, that's too personal. It's fine, He took a breath. She had problems. Addiction. Pills at first, then harder stuff. I tried to help, tried everything. But you can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved. Where is she now? No idea. She left when Emma was 3. Signed away her parental rights for a clean break. Haven't heard from her since. Victoria's expression was unreadable. I'm sorry. Don't be. Emma's better off. We both are. Still, that's a lot to carry alone. We all carry things alone, Ethan said. Some of us just hide it better than others. She smiled at that. A real smile, not the polite corporate version. It changed her face, made her look younger, less guarded. Is that a dig at me? If the shoe fits. Touché. The waitress cleared their plates, offered dessert menus. They both declined, but ordered coffee instead. The hour was almost up. Ethan could see the clock on the far wall creeping toward 9. He should be relieved. The torture was almost over. He'd survived dinner with Victoria Hale without getting fired or causing a scene. He could go home, call Sarah, tell her it didn't work out, and return to his regularly scheduled exhaustion. But he wasn't relieved. "Can I ask you something?" Victoria said. "Sure." "What would you do differently? If you were in my position, facing the same crisis, what would you have done?" It was a genuine question. He could tell by the way she leaned forward slightly, the way her eyes focused on him like he was a puzzle she was trying to solve. "I don't know," he admitted. "Probably something similar. Maybe communicated it better, but..." He shrugged. "You're right. Panic doesn't help, and people don't always want the truth if it's scary. So you understand." "I'm starting to. But you still resent me." "A little," he said honestly. "It's hard not to when I'm running on 4 hours of sleep and missing my daughter's life because of policies you implemented." "Fair enough." Victoria stirred her coffee. "For what it's worth, I do see the numbers, but I also see the people. I just can't afford to show it." "Why not?" "Because the moment I do, someone will use it against me. The business world isn't kind to women who show compassion. We're either too soft or too hard. There's no middle ground." "That's garbage." "That's reality." Ethan wanted to argue, wanted to tell her that couldn't possibly be true, that surely things had changed, that the corporate world couldn't still be that backward. But he'd heard the way his male coworkers talked about female managers, the double standards, the impossible expectations. "I'm sorry," he said. "For what?" "That you have to be someone you're not just to survive." Victoria's eyes glistened, just for a second. Then she blinked it away, locked it down, became the ice queen again. "We all wear masks. Yours is the devoted father who has everything under control. Mine is the ruthless executive who doesn't feel anything. Truth is, we're both just trying to make it through the day without falling apart. Some days I don't even manage that." "Neither do I." They sat with that admission between them. The coffee grew cold. Around them, the restaurant began to empty out. 9:30, well past their agreed hour. Ethan's phone buzzed. Sarah, right on cue. "I should probably..." he started. "Yes," Victoria said quickly. "Of course." They stood. Awkward again. The easy honesty of the past few minutes evaporating as reality reasserted itself. This was his boss. His boss's boss. The woman whose decisions controlled his livelihood. "I'll get the check," Victoria said. "We can split it." "Ethan." She gave him a look. "I'm a billionaire. Let me buy you dinner." He wanted to argue. Pride demanded it, but he was also exhausted and broke and still had to pay the babysitter when he got home. "Thank you." She flagged down the waitress, paid with a black card that probably had no limit, left a tip that made the waitress's eyes widen. Outside, the October air was sharp and cold. Ethan's truck was parked 3 rows away. Victoria's car, because of course she drove herself, was a sleek black sedan that probably cost more than his annual salary. "Well," he said, "that was unexpected?" "Yeah. Not entirely terrible, though." He smiled despite himself. "No, not entirely terrible." Victoria pulled her coat tighter. "Forward me those proposals tomorrow." "I meant that." "I will." "And Ethan?" She met his eyes. "I am sorry for not seeing what the cuts were doing to people like you. I should have done better." "You were doing what you had to do." "Maybe, but I could have done it with more humanity." She turned toward her car, then paused. "Your daughter is lucky to have you." "How do you figure?" "Because you're still fighting, still showing up, still trying to give her a good life even when everything else is falling apart." A pause. "That matters." She got in her car before he could respond. He watched her drive away, taillights disappearing into the night. His phone buzzed again. Sarah, persistent as ever. "How did it go?" Ethan stared at the message. How did he explain this? The disaster that had somehow turned into something else? Something he didn't have words for yet? "Complicated," he typed back. "Talk tomorrow." He drove home on autopilot. The babysitter, Mrs. Chen from next door, was asleep on his couch, some reality show playing on mute. He paid her, thanked her, saw her out. Emma was asleep in her room, tangled in princess sheets, one arm thrown over her stuffed elephant. He stood in the doorway, watching her breathe, feeling the weight of the day finally catch up with him. Victoria was right. He was still fighting, still showing up. He just wasn't sure anymore what he was fighting for. Survival? Stability? Something more? His phone buzzed one more time. Unknown number. This is Victoria. Rebecca gave me your number. Just wanted to say thank you for tonight, for not walking out, for being honest, for reminding me why the work matters. Ethan stared at the message for a long time. Then, before he could second-guess himself, thank you for listening. See you Monday. He turned off his phone, kissed Emma's forehead, and went to bed wondering why the idea of seeing Victoria Hale on Monday didn't fill him with dread anymore. Maybe Sarah had been right about one thing. He did need to get out more, even if it meant having dinner with the last person he'd expected to understand. Monday morning hit Ethan like a freight train. Emma had woken up at 5:30 with a nightmare about monsters under her bed, which meant he'd spent 45 minutes lying on her floor, reassuring her that the only thing under there was a collection of missing socks and probably some dust bunnies. By the time he'd gotten her back to sleep, showered, and made it to the office, he was running on fumes and whatever caffeine he could extract from the break room's terrible coffee. The office felt different. Or maybe he felt different. He couldn't quite pin it down. Carter. Brian Hendricks appeared at his cubicle before Ethan had even logged into his computer. His supervisor was a walking middle management cliché, cheap tie, cheaper cologne, and the kind of smile that never reached his eyes. Got a minute? Sure. Ethan dropped his bag. What's up? Just wanted to touch base about the Morrison account. You're still on track for the quarterly review, right? Yeah. Should have the projections done by Wednesday. Good. Brian leaned against the cubicle wall. Hey, you doing okay? You look tired. Single parent, comes with the territory. Right, the kid. Brian said it like Emma was an inconvenience rather than a person. Must be tough. Ethan didn't trust the sympathy. Brian had never asked about his personal life before. I manage. Well, keep managing. Can't have you falling behind. Brian clapped him on the shoulder and walked away, leaving Ethan with the distinct impression that the conversation had been about something else entirely. He pulled up his email, scrolled through the usual Monday morning avalanche of meeting requests, policy updates, and interdepartmental memos that no one actually read. Then he remembered Victoria's request. Forward me those proposals. He found them in his sent folder. 3 separate emails to Brian, each outlining ways to streamline their department's workflow without sacrificing quality. The first suggested consolidating redundant reporting processes. The second proposed a cross-training program to reduce bottlenecks. The third was a detailed analysis of which projects could be automated, freeing up human resources for higher-level work. He'd spent weeks on these. Nights after Emma went to bed, weekends when Sarah took her to the park. Real solutions, not just complaints. And Brian had buried them. Ethan's jaw tightened. He hit forward, typed Victoria's email address from memory, and paused with his finger over the send button. This could backfire spectacularly. Brian was his direct supervisor. Going over his head, especially to the CEO, was a career-limiting move. But Victoria had asked, had seemed genuinely interested. He hit send before he could second-guess himself. The morning crawled by. Ethan tried to focus on the Morrison account, but his mind kept drifting back to Saturday night, to the way Victoria's expression had shifted when she'd explained about the company's near bankruptcy, the crack in her armor when she'd admitted to becoming what she needed to be rather than who she wanted to be. He shouldn't care. She was still the reason his life was harder. Still the executive who'd made decisions that had turned his job into a pressure cooker. But he did care, and that was the problem. Dude, Marcus wheeled his chair over from the next cubicle. You look like you're about to murder someone. Just thinking. Dangerous habit. Marcus was the closest thing Ethan had to a work friend, mid-30s, perpetually single, with a dark sense of humor that made the long days slightly more bearable. What's eating you? Nothing. Everything. Take your pick. That's specific, huh? Marcus grabbed Ethan's coffee mug, took a sip, and grimaced. How do you drink this? Years of practice and no other options. Sarah's still trying to set you up? Ethan hesitated. She succeeded, actually. Had a blind date Saturday. Marcus's eyebrows shot up. No kidding. How'd it go? Complicated. Good complicated or bad complicated? I don't know yet. That's a terrible answer. It's the only one I've got. His computer chimed. New email. From Victoria Hale. Ethan's stomach did something weird. Marcus noticed immediately. Who's that? Work stuff. You're a terrible liar. Marcus tried to peek at the screen. Ethan angled it away. Come on, man, give me something. I'm bored out of my mind. Then do your job. My job is boring. Your drama is interesting. Ethan opened the email. It was short, professional. Received your proposals. Reading them now. Can you meet at 2 p.m.? My office. His heart rate kicked up. Victoria's office was on the executive floor. He'd never been up there. Most people hadn't. Oh, you're in trouble, Marcus said, reading over his shoulder despite Ethan's attempt at privacy. That's from the big boss. What did you do? Nothing. Nobody gets called to the executive floor for nothing. Maybe I'm getting a promotion. Marcus laughed. Yeah, and maybe I'm getting a date with that new girl in accounting. Face it, Carter. You're about to get your ass handed to you. Ethan typed a quick reply confirming the meeting, then spent the next 4 hours oscillating between dread and something that felt uncomfortably close to anticipation. At 1:55, he took the elevator to the 23rd floor. The doors opened onto a different world. Where his floor was all beige cubicles and fluorescent lighting, the executive level had actual artwork on the walls, real plants instead of plastic ones, and carpet that didn't look like it had been installed during the Reagan administration. The receptionist, an older woman with reading glasses on a chain, looked up when he approached. Can I help you? Ethan Carter. I have a 2 o'clock with Ms. Hale. She checked her computer. She's expecting you. Conference room B, down the hall on your left. Not her office. A conference room. Somehow that felt more official, less personal. He wondered if she'd done that on purpose. Conference room B had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. The table was real wood, polished to a mirror shine. Victoria sat at the far end, laptop open, his proposals printed out in front of her, covered in handwritten notes. She looked up when he entered. Close the door. He did. Stood there awkwardly until she gestured to the chair across from her. Sit, please. He sat. Tried to read her expression and failed. She was back in full CEO mode, professional, controlled, impossible to decipher. I read your proposals, she said without preamble. All 3 of them. And? They're good. Better than good. The automation analysis alone could save the company close to $2 million annually. Ethan blinked. $2 million. Conservative estimate. If we expand the program to other departments, potentially more. She tapped the pages. Why didn't I see these 6 months ago? I sent them to Brian. He said he'd pass them up the chain. He didn't. Her voice was flat. I checked. They never left his inbox. Why would he bury them? Because they made him look bad. Victoria leaned back in her chair. Brian Hendricks has been coasting for years, doing the bare minimum, taking credit for his team's work, and blocking anything that might require him to actually manage. Your proposals would have exposed that. So he killed them to protect himself. Yes. Ethan felt anger rising in his chest. All those late nights, all those hours away from Emma, for nothing, because his supervisor was too lazy and insecure to do his job. I want to fire him, Victoria said. What? I want to fire him. Today. But I need to make sure it's clean. No wrongful termination lawsuit, no severance issues. She met his eyes. I need you to be honest with me. Has he done anything else like this? Buried reports, blocked ideas, taken credit for work that wasn't his? Ethan's mind raced. This was his chance. Brian had made his life hell for months, had dismissed his concerns, ignored his suggestions, made him feel like his only value was in keeping his head down and his mouth shut. But naming specifics meant burning bridges, meant painting a target on his own back. Ethan, Victoria's voice was gentler. I'm not asking you to throw him under the bus. I'm asking you to tell me the truth. If he's hurting this company, I need to know. He took credit for the Simmons contract, Ethan said quietly. Last quarter, Marcus and I did all the work, research, pitch deck, client meetings. Brian showed up to the final presentation and acted like it was his idea. Can you prove it? Email chains, calendar invites. The original files are on my computer with my metadata. Victoria made a note. What else? He approved vendor contracts without proper oversight, chose companies based on whoever took him to the nicest lunch rather than best value. And he's been scheduling mandatory meetings at 5 p.m. every Friday, which he knows conflicts with most people's childcare situations. Deliberately? I can't prove it's deliberate, but he comments on it, makes jokes about how dedicated parents will find a way. Victoria's jaw tightened. That's harassment. Maybe. But he's never said anything actionable. Just, Ethan struggled for the word. Just enough to make it clear he thinks having a kid makes me less committed. It doesn't. I know that. You know that. But Brian sees it differently. Victoria was quiet for a long moment, studying him. I'm sorry, she said finally, for not seeing this sooner, for creating an environment where managers like Brian could thrive. You didn't create it, you inherited it. Same result. She closed her laptop. Here's what's going to happen. Brian Hendricks will be terminated today for cause, failure to report viable cost-saving measures, misrepresentation of work product, and creating a hostile work environment. HR will handle it. And my department? Will report directly to me until I find a suitable replacement. Someone who actually knows how to manage people. Ethan's head was spinning. Victoria, I'm also implementing your proposals, starting with the automation program. I want you to lead it. I'm not qualified to. You created it. You understand it. That makes you qualified. She pulled out a folder. This is a temporary contract, project lead, 6-month term, 20% salary increase. If it goes well, we'll discuss making it permanent. He stared at the folder like it might bite him. You're offering me a promotion. I'm offering you the chance to prove your ideas work. There's a difference. Why? Because you were right. Saturday night, when you said I see numbers instead of people. You were right, and these proposals prove you see both. The company needs people who can do that. Ethan opened the folder, scanned the contract. The numbers made his eyes water. 20% was the difference between scraping by and actually saving money, between constant worry and occasional breathing room. I need to think about it, he said. Victoria looked surprised. You're hesitating. I have a daughter. I can't take risks just because they sound good on paper. What risk? It's more money, more responsibility, more opportunity. It's also a target on my back. Brian's not the only manager who doesn't like people who rock the boat. If I take this, I'm marking myself as your pet project, the guy who went over his boss's head and got rewarded for it. Is that what you think this is? I don't know what to think. He pushed the folder back across the table. Can I have 24 hours? 48, Victoria said. Take 48. Talk to your sister, your daughter, whoever you need to talk to. But Ethan? She waited until he met her eyes. Don't say no because you're afraid. Say no because it's actually the wrong move. There's a difference. He left the conference room with the folder tucked under his arm, feeling like he'd just stepped off a cliff and wasn't sure yet if he was flying or falling. Marcus was waiting at his cubicle when he got back. Well? Well, what? Don't play dumb. You were up there for 40 minutes. What happened? I'm not getting fired. Obviously, you're still here. Marcus lowered his voice. Is it true? About Brian? Word traveled fast. What did you hear? That he's cleaning out his office right now. That security walked him out. Ethan looked toward Brian's office. The door was closed, blinds drawn. Yeah, it's true. Holy hell! Marcus let out a low whistle. What did he do? Buried some reports, made some bad calls. The usual. The usual doesn't get you perp walked out of the building. Marcus studied him. This have anything to do with you? Why would it? Because you've been weird all day. Because you got called upstairs. Because... Marcus stopped. Wait. Your blind date. Saturday. You said it was complicated. Ethan said nothing. Oh my God, it was her. It was Hale. Keep your voice down. You went on a date with our CEO. It wasn't a date. It was a setup gone wrong. And now Brian's fired and you're getting mysterious meetings. Marcus's grin was huge. Carter, you magnificent bastard. You're sleeping with the boss. I'm not sleeping with anyone. Yet. Ever. It's not like that. Then what's it like? Ethan didn't have an answer for that. What was it like? Saturday night had been something, not a date, not exactly a disaster, something in between, something undefined. We talked, he said finally. That's it, just talked. Must have been some conversation. It was eye-opening. Marcus waited for more. When Ethan didn't elaborate, he shook his head. You're killing me here, man. Give me something. There's nothing to give. We had dinner. We cleared the air. That's it. And Brian getting fired has nothing to do with it. I didn't say that. So it does have something to do with it. Ethan rubbed his face. Brian buried some proposals I'd sent him. Victoria asked about them. I forwarded them to her. She looked into it and found other issues. That's the whole story. That's not the whole story. That's the sanitized version. It's the version you're getting. His phone buzzed. Sarah, dinner tonight? Want to hear about your date? Of course she did. Ethan typed back quickly. Can't. Emma has soccer practice. Tomorrow? Fine. But you're not getting out of this. He pocketed his phone and tried to focus on work. The Morrison account still needed attention. Spreadsheets still needed updating. Life went on even when everything felt like it was shifting under his feet. But he couldn't stop thinking about the folder in his bag. About the opportunity Victoria had offered. About the choice in front of him. 20% more money. A chance to actually implement ideas instead of just proposing them. Recognition for the work he'd been doing in the shadows. But also risk. Visibility. The kind of attention that could make or break a career. Emma was at the kitchen table doing homework when he got home that night, tongue sticking out in concentration as she worked through math problems. Mrs. Chen was cooking something that smelled like garlic and ginger, humming along to a Korean drama on her phone. Daddy! Emma launched herself at him. He caught her, lifted her up even though she was getting too big for it, breathed in the scent of her strawberry shampoo. Hey, baby. How was school? Good. We learned about penguins. Yeah, what did you learn? They can't fly, but they can swim really fast, and the daddies take care of the eggs while the mommies go get food. Smart birds. Mrs. Chen said we're having stir-fry for dinner. Sounds good. He set her down. Go finish your homework. I need to talk to Mrs. Chen for a minute. Emma scampered back to the table. Mrs. Chen smiled at him from the stove. Long day? She asked. You could say that. He lowered his voice. Can I ask you something? Of course. If someone offered you a promotion, more money, more responsibility, but also more risk, would you take it? Mrs. Chen considered this, stirring the vegetables. Depends. Is the risk to your job or to your soul? What's the difference? Job risk you can recover from. Soul risk, that stays with you. She looked at him. Which kind is this? I don't know yet. Then you're not ready to decide. She turned back to the stove. When you know which kind it is, the answer will be clear. Dinner was loud and chaotic in the best way. Emma chattered about penguins and her friend Mia and the upcoming school play where she wanted to be a tree. Ethan listened with half his attention, the other half still turning over Victoria's offer. After Emma was in bed, he pulled out the contract. Read it properly this time, not just skimming. The terms were fair, more than fair. The salary increase alone would mean he could stop buying generic cereal and start actually saving for Emma's college fund. But it also meant longer hours, more pressure, being directly accountable to Victoria herself. He thought about Saturday night, about the way she'd listened to him, really listened, without defensiveness or dismissal, about the crack in her armor when she'd admitted to becoming someone she wasn't sure she wanted to be. She was offering him a chance to be someone too, not just Ethan Carter, overworked single dad barely keeping his head above water, but Ethan Carter, project lead, problem solver, someone whose ideas mattered. His phone buzzed. Unknown number, except it wasn't unknown anymore. Still thinking? Victoria, he typed back. Yeah, it's a big decision. Take your time. Offer stands until Wednesday. He stared at the message. Wanted to ask her why she was texting him at 9 p.m. on a Monday. Why she cared whether he took the job. Why she'd looked at him across that conference table like she was seeing someone worth investing in. Instead, he wrote, "Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for not being afraid to tell the truth." Ethan set down his phone and looked at the contract again. Mrs. Chen was right. He needed to figure out what kind of risk this was before he could make the call. Tuesday morning brought another complication. Brian had apparently decided to go out with a bang rather than quietly. Ethan arrived at work to find his inbox flooded with emails from colleagues asking what had happened, whether the rumors were true, if Brian had really been escorted out by security. He deleted them all without responding. Victoria's temporary management structure went into effect immediately. A company-wide memo announced that until a new department head was appointed, all personnel would report directly to the executive office. Contact information for HR was provided for any concerns or questions. People were nervous. Ethan could feel it in the break room, in the hushed conversations by the coffee maker. Direct oversight from the CEO meant scrutiny. It meant everyone's work would be visible in a way it hadn't been before. Marcus found him at lunch. "You should take it." "Take what?" "Whatever she offered you. Don't play dumb." Ethan set down his sandwich. "How did you—" "I've known you for 3 years. I know when you're wrestling with something, and you've been wrestling since yesterday." Marcus leaned forward. "Look, I don't know what went down between you and Hale. Don't really want to know. But I know you, and I know you're going to overthink yourself into saying no. Maybe no is the right answer. When has playing it safe ever gotten you anywhere? It's kept me employed and miserable. There's a difference between surviving and living, man." Easy for you to say. You don't have a kid depending on you. Exactly. You do have a kid, and she's watching everything you do, learning from it. You want to teach her to take chances or to play it safe forever? Ethan didn't have a comeback for that. That evening, Sarah showed up at his door with takeout and a determination that reminded him why he both loved and feared his sister. "We're talking," she announced, pushing past him into the apartment. "Emma's with Mom for the night. You and I are going to sit down and you're going to tell me everything about Saturday." "Sarah, everything, Ethan. I set you up. I deserve details." They sat at the kitchen table with Thai food between them. Sarah waited with exaggerated patience while Ethan tried to figure out where to start. "It was her," he said finally. "Her who?" "Victoria Hale, my boss, the CEO." Sarah's fork clattered to her plate. "You're joking." "I'm really not." "How? I didn't—" She stopped, started again. "Rebecca didn't tell me who she was setting up. Just said she had a friend who needed to get out more. Someone smart and successful, but terrible with relationships." Well, she got the terrible with relationships part right. "Ethan, oh my God, what happened?" He told her, the whole thing. The initial horror, the hostile dinner conversation, the gradual shift as they'd actually talked to each other. He left out some of the more personal details. Victoria's admission about becoming what she needed to be. His own confession about feeling like he was failing Emma, but gave her enough to understand. When he finished, Sarah was staring at him like he'd grown a second head. "So let me get this straight," she said slowly. "You had dinner with a billionaire CEO who happens to be your boss. You called her heartless to her face. She offered you a promotion, and you're considering saying no." "It's not that simple." "It kind of is, though. Sarah, this could blow up in my face. If I take this job and fail, I won't just lose the promotion, I'll lose everything. And if you don't take it, what then? You stay in the same position, same stress, same barely scraping by? At least it's familiar." "Familiar isn't always good, little brother." Sarah reached across the table, took his hand. "You've been in survival mode since the divorce. Hell, probably since before that. When was the last time you let yourself actually want something? Actually reach for something? I can't afford to want things." "You can't afford not to." She squeezed his hand. "Emma's growing up, she's watching you, and right now you're teaching her that the safe choice is the only choice. Is that really the lesson you want her to learn?" Marcus had said basically the same thing. Ethan pulled his hand back, frustrated. "This isn't about lessons. It's about keeping a roof over our heads. No, the promotion comes with more money. And more risk." "Life is risk, Ethan. You can't eliminate it. You can only decide which risks are worth taking." They ate in silence for a while. The Thai food was good. Sarah had remembered to get his favorite, the pad see ew, with extra broccoli that he'd been ordering since college. "What was she like?" Sarah asked eventually. "Victoria. When you actually talked to her." Ethan thought about this. Lonely, he said. Brilliant. Complicated. She carries everything alone and pretends the weight doesn't bother her. Sounds like someone else I know. I'm not a billionaire CEO. No, but you're both doing the same thing. Building walls, keeping people out, pretending you don't need help. Sarah tilted her head. Did you like her? What kind of question is that? A simple one. When you talked to her, when you got past the boss-employee thing, did you actually like her? He wanted to say no, wanted to dismiss it as a bizarre coincidence that would fade back into professional distance. But that would be a lie. Yeah, he admitted. I did. She was real. Once we stopped fighting and actually talked, she was real. Sarah smiled. Then take the job. That's not a reason to... It's the best reason. She saw something in you, saw it enough to offer you this opportunity. Don't waste that because you're scared. I'm not scared. You're terrified. I can see it. Sarah's voice gentled. But you're also ready. More ready than you think. After Sarah left, Ethan lay awake staring at the ceiling. His phone sat on the nightstand, dark and silent. He could text Victoria right now, accept the offer, jump into the unknown, or he could play it safe, send a polite decline, stay exactly where he was. Emma's voice echoed in his head. The penguins. The daddy's taking care of the eggs while the mommy's got food. Partnerships, trust, sharing the load. He'd been doing this alone for so long, he'd forgotten what it felt like to have someone in his corner. But Saturday night, Victoria had been in his corner, and now she was offering him more than just a promotion. She was offering him a chance to be seen, to matter, to make a real difference. The question was whether he was brave enough to take it. Wednesday morning, Ethan arrived at work early, drafted an email to Victoria before he could talk himself out of it. I accept. When do I start? Her response came back in under a minute. Now, my office. We have work to do. Victoria's office was nothing like Ethan expected. He'd imagined floor-to-ceiling windows, minimalist furniture, maybe some expensive abstract art that cost more than his annual salary. What he got instead was organized chaos. Her desk was covered in reports, sticky notes clustered in different colors, 3 separate computer monitors showing spreadsheets and charts. The windows were there, but the view was partially blocked by a whiteboard covered in what looked like project timelines and budget calculations in her handwriting. She was on the phone when he entered, gesturing for him to sit while she finished the conversation. No, tell them the deadline isn't negotiable. If they can't deliver by the 15th, we'll find someone who can. A pause. I don't care about their staffing issues. That's not our problem. Make it happen. She hung up and immediately turned to Ethan. You're here. You said now. I did. She cleared a space on her desk, pulling out a folder thick with documents. Before we start, I need to make something clear. This isn't going to be easy. The automation project is going to face resistance from every department that thinks their processes are special snowflakes that can't possibly be standardized. I figured. And people are going to assume you got this position because of... She paused, seemed to reconsider her words. Because of our dinner. The rumors are already starting. Ethan had heard them in the break room that morning. Hushed speculation about why the CEO was suddenly taking an interest in some random guy from operations. Marcus had texted him 3 times, asking if he needed backup. Let them talk, Ethan said. I know why I'm here. So do you. That's what matters. Something shifted in Victoria's expression. Approval, maybe, or respect. Good answer. Now here's the reality. We're implementing this in phases. Start with one department, prove the concept, then expand. I want to begin with operations. Your territory, your team. They know you, they'll be more receptive. Or they'll think I'm selling them out. That's why communication is critical. You explain the why, not just the what. Make them understand this isn't about eliminating jobs. It's about eliminating the garbage parts of their jobs so they can focus on work that actually matters. Ethan pulled the folder closer, started scanning the implementation timeline. This is aggressive. You want full deployment in 6 months? The board wants results, fast results. They're already questioning whether the budget cuts went far enough. Did they? Victoria's jaw tightened. We're stable. For now. But stable isn't the same as thriving. We need to show growth, innovation, forward momentum. Otherwise, she didn't finish the sentence. Didn't need to. Otherwise, they'll bring in someone who will cut deeper, Ethan said. Exactly. They spent the next 3 hours going through the project plan in excruciating detail. Victoria asked questions that made Ethan's proposals look like rough sketches next to her level of scrutiny. She challenged every assumption, poked holes in every timeline, demanded contingency plans for contingency plans. It was exhausting. It was also exhilarating. You're going to need a team, Victoria said around noon, pushing back from her desk. Can't do this alone. Who do you trust? Marcus Chen. He's solid, knows the systems inside and out. The one who helped with the Simmons contract? Yeah, he's got a smart mouth, but he gets things done. Smart mouth I can work with. Who else? Ethan thought. Jennifer Park from data analysis. She's quiet, but she sees patterns nobody else catches. And probably David Okonkwo from IT. If we're automating processes, we'll need someone who can actually build the systems. Victoria made notes. I'll have HR pull their files. Anyone else? That's probably enough to start. Small team, focused execution. Good instinct. She stood, stretched. Ethan tried not to notice the way her shoulders rolled, the brief moment of vulnerability before she locked back into CEO mode. Lunch. We should eat. I usually just grab something from... I'm not talking about the cafeteria. Come on. She led him to a private dining room he hadn't known existed, tucked away on the executive floor. A simple table, lunch already laid out. Sandwiches, salad, fruit. Nothing fancy, but a hell of a lot better than the vending machine. I eat here when I don't have time to leave the building, Victoria explained, sitting down, which is most days. Ethan took the chair across from her. It felt strange, this casual proximity. A week ago, she'd been an untouchable figure. Now they were having lunch together like it was normal. Can I ask you something? He said. Depends on the question. Why me? Really? You could have hired a consultant, brought in someone with more experience. Why take a chance on someone from inside? Victoria took a bite of her sandwich, chewed thoughtfully. Consultants tell you what you want to hear. They're expensive, they're temporary, and they don't care about the people affected by their recommendations. You do. That's not exactly a ringing endorsement of my business acumen. It's an endorsement of your character, which matters more than you think. She met his eyes. I've made a lot of mistakes since taking over this company. Necessary mistakes, maybe, but mistakes nonetheless. I prioritize numbers over people because that's what I thought leadership required. Your proposals showed me there's another way. Better way. I'm not sure I'm qualified to show you anything. Stop that. Stop what? Downplaying yourself. You're smart, Ethan. You see solutions where other people only see problems. Own it. He shifted uncomfortably. I'm not used to compliments, recognition, someone believing in you. Victoria's voice was gentle. Get used to it. Because if this project works, you're going to get a lot more of it. They ate in companionable silence for a few minutes. Outside the windows, the city sprawled in all directions, a maze of buildings and streets and lives intersecting in ways people never realized. Emma's soccer practice, Victoria said suddenly. What time? Ethan blinked at the subject change. What? Your daughter. You mentioned she plays soccer. What time is practice? Tuesdays and Thursdays, 5:30 to 7. So you need to leave here by 5 to make it. Usually, yeah. Why? Victoria pulled out her phone, made a note. Because I need to know your constraints. Can't build a realistic project timeline without accounting for the fact that you have a life outside this office. Most managers don't care about that. Most managers are idiots. She set down her phone. I meant what I said Saturday, about Emma being lucky to have you. I'm not going to be the reason she sees less of her father. Something warm unfurled in Ethan's chest. Gratitude, maybe, or something more complicated. Thank you. Don't thank me, just make this project work. The afternoon was a blur of meetings. Victoria introduced him to department heads, explained the automation initiative, let Ethan present the core concepts while she watched from the side. Some people were receptive. Others were openly hostile, seeing the project as a threat to their territory. Jennifer Park was cautiously optimistic. David Okonkwo was enthusiastically on board. Marcus, when they finally tracked him down, just grinned and said, About damn time someone recognized your ideas aren't completely terrible. By 4:30, Ethan was running on fumes. His phone buzzed with a reminder about Emma's practice. He stood to leave Victoria's office, where they'd reconvened to debrief. Go, she said before he could explain. We can finish this tomorrow. You sure? There's still... Ethan, go be a dad. The company will survive one night without you. He grabbed his jacket, hesitated at the door. This morning, when you said we have work to do, you meant it. Of course I meant it. No, I mean, you said we, not you. Victoria looked up from her computer. What's your point? Just thank you for including me, for making this feel like a partnership instead of just following orders. She smiled, small, genuine. Get out of here before you're late. Emma was already on the field when he arrived, running drills with the other kids. Ethan found a spot on the sideline, waving when she spotted him. Her whole face lit up, that gap-toothed smile that made every terrible day worthwhile. The coach, a parent volunteer Ethan vaguely recognized from school events, was putting the kids through passing exercises. Emma was decent for her age, enthusiastic if not particularly coordinated. She kicked the ball too hard, sent it sailing past her partner, and jogged after it laughing. Carter, right? A woman sat down on the bench next to him, mid-40s, athletic build, the kind of competent friendliness that suggested she was used to organizing things. I'm Linda, Travis's mom. Nice to meet you. Emma's a sweetheart, lots of energy. That's one way to put it, Linda laughed. I heard you just got promoted. Congratulations. News traveled fast. Thanks. It's a new role, still figuring it out. Well, if you ever need backup with pickup or practice, let me know. Single parent network, right? I appreciate that. They watched the kids in comfortable silence. Emma scored a goal in the scrimmage and did a victory dance that involved way too much wiggling. Ethan's heart squeezed with love so fierce it almost hurt. This was what mattered. Not the promotion, not the project, not impressing Victoria or proving himself to the company. This. Being here. Being present. The rest of the week fell into a rhythm. Mornings with Victoria, planning and strategizing. Afternoons with his new team, building the framework for the automation rollout. Evenings with Emma, homework and dinner and bedtime stories. It was exhausting, but it was good exhausting, purposeful. Friday afternoon, Victoria called him into her office with an edge to her voice that immediately put him on alert. We have a problem, she said without preamble. What kind of problem? The board wants a presentation, 2 weeks from now. Full overview of the automation project, projected cost savings, implementation timeline, risk assessment, the works. Ethan's stomach dropped. 2 weeks? We're barely started. I know, but they're getting nervous. Want proof that we're being innovative, forward-thinking, that the company is worth their continued investment. Can we push back? Not without looking like we don't have our act together. Victoria pulled up a calendar on her screen. Which means we're working weekends. I can't. Emma has soccer games on Saturdays and Sundays. I know. That's why I'm coming to you. Ethan stared at her. What? The soccer games. What time? 9 a.m. But Victoria, you don't need to. I'll work around it. We'll put in hours after the game. Evenings when Emma's with your sister. Whatever it takes. She paused. Unless you'd rather I find someone else to... No, I want to do this. I just don't want you rearranging your entire life for... For what? The project I assigned? The opportunity I offered? Victoria's expression was unreadable. Ethan, if I'm asking you to sacrifice weekends, the least I can do is work around your responsibilities. That's not charity. That's basic management. He wanted to argue. Wanted to say this was above and beyond, that CEOs didn't attend their employees' kids' soccer games. But something in her eyes stopped him. A hint of loneliness, maybe. Or the same need he felt sometimes. To be part of something normal, something real. Okay, he said. Saturday. Games at Riverside Park. I'll be there. That evening, Sarah called while he was making dinner. Please tell me you're not working all weekend. Only part of it. Ethan, the board wants a presentation. We have 2 weeks to pull it together. It's a lot. It's always a lot with you. When are you going to learn that you can't... She stopped herself, breathed. Sorry, that was unfair. No, you're right. I do take on too much. So delegate. You have a team now, right? I do, but this is my project, my responsibility. And Emma, is she your responsibility too, or are you just going to keep shuffling her off to me and Mom? The accusation stung because it was partially true. That's not fair, isn't it? You've been working late every night this week. You missed her school play rehearsal on Wednesday. Wait, that was Wednesday? I thought it was Wednesday, Ethan. She asked for you. I told her you were busy with work. Guilt crashed over him in waves. I'll make it up to her. You always say that, but making it up isn't the same as being there. He wanted to defend himself, wanted to explain about the project and the deadline, and how this opportunity could change their lives. But Sarah was right. He'd been so focused on proving himself, on making this work, that he'd let other things slip. The game tomorrow, he said quietly. I'll be there, the whole time. No distractions. Good. She needs you, Ethan. The real you, not the exhausted zombie version who shows up at bedtime. After he hung up, Ethan stood in the kitchen staring at the half-made spaghetti. The water was boiling over, steam everywhere, and he felt like that pot contained pressure about to spill over the edges. Emma wandered in, dragging her stuffed elephant. Daddy, you okay? He turned off the stove, crouched down to her level. Yeah, baby, I'm okay, just thinking. About work? A little. You think about work a lot. I know, I'm sorry. It's okay. She hugged the elephant. Mrs. Chen says work is important, but she also says family is more important. Mrs. Chen is very smart. Are you coming to my game tomorrow? Absolutely. Wouldn't miss it. Promise? He held out his pinky. Promise. She hooked her pinky with his, satisfied. Can we have spaghetti now? I'm hungry. Saturday morning was crisp and clear, perfect soccer weather. Ethan got Emma to the field early, helped her warm up, tried not to feel the anxiety creeping up his spine about all the work waiting after this. Victoria arrived at 8:50, looking nothing like the CEO he was used to. Jeans, a simple jacket, hair pulled back in a casual ponytail. She looked younger, more approachable, almost like a normal person. You came, he said, unable to hide his surprise. I said I would. She glanced at the field. Which one is Emma? Number 7, the one currently doing cartwheels instead of stretching. Victoria smiled. She's got spirit. That's a diplomatic way of putting it. They sat on the bleachers with the other parents. Ethan introduced Victoria as a work colleague, which was technically true even if it left out about 90% of the context. The parents were polite but clearly curious about this polished woman who seemed slightly out of place among the usual Saturday morning soccer crowd. The game started. Emma played forward, running with more enthusiasm than skill, occasionally remembering to actually look for the ball. Her team was down 2-0 by halftime, but the kids didn't seem to care. They were having fun, and that was the point. She's fearless, Victoria observed. Doesn't hesitate, just goes for it. Yeah, she doesn't really have a filter for self-doubt yet. Must be nice. You could learn from her. Ethan glanced over. Meaning? Meaning you second-guess yourself constantly. In meetings, in planning sessions, you have good instincts, but you don't trust them. That's not... He stopped, because she was right. How do you know that? I pay attention. Victoria kept her eyes on the field. You had 3 brilliant ideas in yesterday's meeting and presented all of them as questions instead of statements. What if we tried this instead of, we should do this? Small difference, huge impact. I don't want to come across as arrogant. There's a mile of space between confident and arrogant. You're so busy avoiding arrogant that you're underselling yourself. Emma scored a goal, mostly by accident, the ball bouncing off her shin into the net, and Ethan jumped up cheering. Victoria stood with him, clapping, and Emma spotted them both. Her face lit up with delight at having 2 people cheering for her instead of 1. After the game, Emma ran over, sweaty and grass-stained and grinning. Did you see? I scored! I saw! That was amazing! Ethan scooped her up, spun her around. Who's that? Emma asked when he set her down, pointing at Victoria. This is Victoria. She works with Daddy. Emma studied Victoria with the unfiltered curiosity of a 6-year-old. Are you his boss? Something like that, Victoria said, crouching down to Emma's level. You played a great game. Thanks. I messed up a lot, but coach says messing up is how you learn. Your coach is very smart. Are you coming for pizza? Emma asked. We always get pizza after games. Ethan's heart stopped. Emma, Victoria probably has plans. Actually, Victoria interrupted. Pizza sounds perfect. They ended up at Mario's, a hole-in-the-wall place with checkered tablecloths and pizza that came on tin trays. Emma dominated the conversation, telling Victoria about school and her friends and the upcoming Halloween costume she was planning. Victoria listened with genuine interest, asking follow-up questions, laughing at Emma's jokes. Ethan watched them interact and felt something shift in his chest. This wasn't the ice queen from the boardroom. This was someone different. Someone who smiled at a kid's knock-knock jokes and didn't mind when Emma accidentally spilled soda on the table. Your daughter is wonderful, Victoria said quietly while Emma was in the bathroom. She's the best thing I ever did. I can tell. Victoria picked at her pizza crust. This isn't something I usually do. Pizza? Casual. Normal. She gestured vaguely at the restaurant. My life is mostly boardrooms and business dinners. This is different. Good different or bad different? Good. Definitely good. She met his eyes. Thank you for letting me crash your Saturday. You're not crashing. He struggled for the word. You're welcome. Anytime. Emma returned, launching into another story about her friend Mia's pet hamster. Victoria listened patiently, and Ethan found himself relaxing in a way he hadn't in months. This was easy, natural, like they'd known each other far longer than a week and a half. After lunch, they walked to the park. Emma ran ahead to the playground while Ethan and Victoria found a bench in the shade. We should probably talk about the presentation, Victoria said. Yeah, probably should. I'm thinking we focus on 3 key areas: cost savings, efficiency gains, and employee satisfaction metrics. Show the board it's not just about cutting expenses, but improving quality of work. Ethan pulled out his phone, made notes. We'll need data to back that up. Jennifer can pull historical comparisons, and we'll run a pilot in operations before the presentation, get real numbers instead of projections. That's a tight timeline. It is, but if anyone can pull it off, it's you and your team. They worked for an hour, hashing out details, while Emma played on the swings. It felt surreal, planning a major corporate initiative while sitting in a park on a Saturday afternoon. But it also felt right somehow, like they'd found a balance between work and life that neither of them had managed alone. I should go, Victoria said eventually. Let you have the rest of your day. You don't have to. I know. But you promised Emma your full attention. I won't be the reason you break that promise. Ethan walked her to her car. Emma waved from the playground, and Victoria waved back. Thank you for today, Ethan said. For coming to the game, for all of it. Thank you for including me. Victoria paused with her hand on the car door. I meant what I said, about this being different, good different. Same. She drove away, and Ethan stood watching until her car disappeared around the corner. Then Emma called for him to push her on the swings, and he jogged over, pushing aside thoughts of work and presentations and complicated feelings he didn't have names for yet. Sunday, his phone buzzed with a text from Victoria, a photo of her whiteboard covered in notes and diagrams. Beneath it, couldn't stop thinking about the presentation. Does this structure make sense? He studied the image, sent back suggestions. They texted back and forth for an hour, refining ideas, until Emma demanded his attention for a tea party with her stuffed animals. Later, after Emma was asleep, he looked at his phone again. Their text thread was full of work talk, but underneath it was something else. Easy conversation, shared jokes, the kind of communication that happened between people who understood each other. His phone buzzed. Another message from Victoria. Sorry for monopolizing your Sunday. I'll back off. You're not monopolizing anything. This is good. We're building something good. A long pause. Then, we are, aren't we? Yeah, we really are. The next week was brutal. Early mornings, late nights, stolen moments to review data and refine arguments. The team pulled together, working with the kind of focused intensity that Ethan had only seen in crisis situations. Except this wasn't a crisis. This was opportunity. Jennifer found patterns in the historical data that even Ethan had missed. David built a prototype automation system in 3 days that should have taken 3 weeks. Marcus kept them all caffeinated and focused with his particular brand of sarcastic motivation. And Victoria was there through all of it. Not micromanaging, not breathing down their necks, but present, available. Contributing ideas, challenging assumptions, pushing them to be better without making them feel inadequate. Thursday night, they were still in the office at 9 p.m., putting finishing touches on the presentation deck. Emma was with Sarah again, and Ethan felt the familiar guilt gnawing at him. "Go home," Victoria said, noticing his distraction. "I'm fine." "You're not. You're thinking about Emma." "How do you—" "Because you get this look, like you're somewhere else." She saved the file they were working on. "We're in good shape. The presentation is solid. Take the night. Be with your daughter. There's still—" "Ethan." She turned to face him fully. "I'm not asking. I'm telling you. Go home. Kiss your kid goodnight. Come back fresh tomorrow." He wanted to argue, wanted to prove he could push through, could sacrifice sleep and personal time for the sake of the project. But Victoria was right. He was running on empty. "Okay," he said. "Thank you. Stop thanking me for basic human decency." He gathered his things, headed for the elevator. Victoria's voice stopped him at the door. "Ethan?" "Yeah?" "You're doing great work. I know you don't hear that enough, but you are. This project, this team, it's everything I hoped it would be." The praise settled over him like warmth. "Couldn't do it without you. We're doing it together. That's the point." He drove home feeling lighter than he had in days. Sarah was waiting when he arrived, sitting on his couch with a knowing look. "You're home early," she observed. "Boss sent me home." "The boss you're not sleeping with?" "Sarah. I'm kidding, mostly." She stood, grabbed her purse. "Emma's asleep. She asked about you at dinner." The guilt returned, sharp and immediate. "What did she say?" "Asked when you'd be home. I told her soon." Sarah softened. "She's okay, Ethan. She knows you love her, but she does miss you." "I know. This week has been—" "I know. And I get it. Big presentation, important work. Just don't forget what's important at home, too." After Sarah left, Ethan checked on Emma. She was curled up with her elephant, peaceful and perfect. He sat on the edge of her bed, brushed hair from her forehead, felt the overwhelming weight of responsibility and love. "I'm trying, baby," he whispered. "I'm trying to give you everything. I just hope I'm not messing it up." Friday, the day before the presentation, Victoria gathered the team in the conference room. "Tomorrow's going to be intense," she said. "The board isn't easy. They're going to push back, ask hard questions, test every assumption. But I believe in this project. More importantly, I believe in all of you." She looked at each of them in turn. "We've built something real here, something that can genuinely make this company better. That's worth fighting for." Marcus raised his coffee cup. "No pressure, right?" Victoria smiled. "All the pressure. But we've got this." That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. He lay in bed running through the presentation, anticipating questions, rehearsing answers. At 2 a.m., his phone buzzed. "Victoria, you awake?" "Unfortunately, me too. Nervous? Terrified." "Good. Means you care." "Is that supposed to be comforting? Is it working?" "Not really." "Then how about this? Whatever happens tomorrow, you've already succeeded. You took an idea, built a team, created something tangible. That matters regardless of what the board says." Ethan stared at the message, feeling something unknot in his chest. "Thank you. For everything. This opportunity, this chance. You didn't have to take a risk on me." "Yes, I did. You were the only one telling the truth." "That's rare. Worth the risk." "See you tomorrow?" "See you tomorrow. We've got this." He set down his phone and finally fell asleep, Victoria's words echoing in his head. They'd built something real, something worth fighting for. And tomorrow, they'd prove it. The boardroom on the 25th floor made Victoria's office look modest. Ethan had never been this high in the building, had never seen the view from up here. The entire city spread out like a map, tiny cars threading through streets, people reduced to dots. From this height, individual lives became abstractions, numbers on a spreadsheet. He understood now why Victoria fought so hard to remember the people behind those numbers. The board members filed in at exactly 9 a.m. 7 of them, All men except for one woman in her 60s who looked like she could dismantle a corporation with a glance. They wore expensive suits and carried leather portfolios and exuded the kind of confidence that came from decades of making decisions that affected thousands of lives. Ethan's mouth went dry. Victoria stood at the head of the table, perfectly composed. She'd gone full CEO today. Sharp black suit, hair pulled back severely, the armor back in place. But when she glanced at Ethan, he saw the flicker of something underneath. Nerves, maybe. Or solidarity. "Gentlemen, Margaret," Victoria began, "thank you for making time this morning. I know your schedules are demanding." "Let's skip the pleasantries, Victoria," said a silver-haired man Ethan recognized as Richard Chen, the board chairman. "We're here because we have concerns about the company's direction. We need to see innovation, not just cost-cutting. Show us why we shouldn't be looking for alternative leadership." The threat hung in the air like smoke. Victoria didn't flinch. "That's exactly what we're here to present. Richard, board members, I'd like to introduce Ethan Carter. He's been leading our automation initiative, and I'm going to let him walk you through what we've accomplished." All eyes turned to Ethan. He felt the weight of their scrutiny, the unspoken question. Who is this nobody, and why is he wasting our time? He stood, advancing the first slide. His hands were steady, even if his pulse wasn't. 2 months ago, he began, this company was bleeding efficiency. We were asking employees to do more with less, but we weren't giving them the tools to actually succeed. What I'm about to show you isn't just about saving money. It's about working smarter. Richard leaned back in his chair. We've heard pitches about working smarter before. They usually involve expensive software and consultants who disappear after cashing their checks. This is different, Ethan said, because it came from the ground up, not the top down. The people doing the actual work identified the problems. We just gave them permission to solve them. He clicked to the next slide, showing the pilot program results from operations. 3 weeks ago, we implemented automated reporting in one department. Time spent on manual data entry dropped by 67%. Error rates dropped by 42%. And employee satisfaction, measured by anonymous survey, increased by 31%. Margaret, the woman board member, leaned forward. Those are promising numbers. But 3 weeks is hardly a trend. How do we know this is sustainable? Because we're not asking people to change how they think. We're removing the obstacles that prevent them from doing their best work. Ethan advanced to a detailed breakdown. The average employee in our operations department spends 4 hours a day on tasks that could be automated. 4 hours of copying data, generating reports, reformatting spreadsheets. That's not work. That's waste. So you're proposing we eliminate positions, said another board member, younger than the others but with the same sharp edge. No. We're proposing we eliminate busy work and redirect that labor toward actual problem solving, innovation, client relations, the things that actually grow a business. Victoria stepped in smoothly. The initial investment is minimal. We're using existing software, just deploying it more intelligently. The projected ROI is 18 months, conservative estimate. 12 months if we expand to other departments at the pace we're proposing. Richard was studying the projections with narrowed eyes. And what happens to the employees whose work you're automating? They just magically find 4 hours of productive work to fill their day. We retrain them, Ethan said. Cross-train across departments. Upskill in areas where we're actually understaffed. We have account managers handling their own data entry because we don't have enough analysts. We have customer service reps doing manual filing because we don't have enough client relationship specialists. The capacity exists. We've just been using it wrong. The questions came rapid fire after that. Technical details, cost projections, risk assessments. Ethan fielded them as best he could, Victoria stepping in when the questions veered into territory he couldn't answer. They worked in tandem, a rhythm they'd developed over the past 2 weeks without quite realizing it. 45 minutes in, Richard held up a hand. Enough. I want to see it. Ethan blinked. See what? The system. In action. Not slides, not projections, the actual implementation. Victoria didn't hesitate. Conference Room C has been set up with a live demonstration. Ethan's team can walk you through the full workflow. They filed out, the board members trailing behind like a skeptical procession. Conference Room C was smaller, more intimate, with computers already set up showing the automation dashboard David had built. Marcus and Jennifer were waiting, looking significantly more nervous than they had during rehearsal. "Show them everything," Victoria murmured to Ethan as the board settled into chairs. "Don't hold back." David took the lead, walking through the system architecture while Jennifer pulled up real data from the pilot program. Marcus demonstrated the user interface, showing how an employee could generate a complex report with 3 clicks instead of 3 hours. "This is impressive," Margaret admitted, "but it requires employee buy-in, cultural change. Those are notoriously difficult to achieve." "That's why we started with operations," Ethan said. "My former department. People who knew me, who trusted that I wasn't trying to eliminate their jobs. The adoption rate was 93% in the first week. And the other 7%? 2 people retired early. 1 transferred to a different department that wasn't implementing the system yet. Nobody was forced out." Richard was typing something on his phone. "Victoria, can I speak with you privately?" They stepped into the hallway. Through the glass walls, Ethan could see them talking, Richard's expression unreadable, Victoria's posture rigid. The conversation lasted maybe 3 minutes, but felt like 3 hours. When they returned, Richard's expression had shifted, not quite a smile, but close. "The board will need to discuss this formally," he said. "But speaking personally, I'm impressed. This is the kind of forward thinking we've been asking for." He looked at Ethan. "How long have you been with the company, Mr. Carter?" 5 years? "And you've been in operations that entire time?" "Yes, sir." "Interesting. That we had someone with this level of insight in our ranks and never knew it." He glanced at Victoria. "Says something about our talent development, doesn't it?" Victoria's expression was carefully neutral. "It does, which is why we're restructuring our internal promotion pipeline, making sure we're identifying and elevating people based on merit, not just proximity to management." "Good. See that you do." Richard checked his watch. "We'll reconvene in 2 weeks for a formal vote. In the meantime, I want monthly progress reports on this initiative. Real numbers, real results. No padding." "You'll have them," Victoria said. The board members filtered out, some pausing to shake Ethan's hand, others simply nodding. Margaret was the last to leave, stopping at the door. "You did well," she told Ethan. "But don't let this success make you complacent. The real work starts after the board approves. Implementation at scale is where most initiatives fail." "I'm aware," Ethan said. "We've already got contingency plans for the most likely failure points." "Smart. Victoria chose well." Margaret smiled, the first genuine warmth Ethan had seen from any board member. "Keep proving her right." When they were finally alone, the team erupted. Marcus whooped, Jennifer laughed with relief, David just slumped in his chair looking exhausted. Victoria maintained her composure for exactly 10 seconds before allowing herself a smile. "We did it," she said quietly. "You did it," Marcus corrected. "That was incredible." "Team effort," Victoria said. "Ethan carried that presentation. I just backed him up." Ethan felt lightheaded. Adrenaline crash, probably, or the realization that they'd actually pulled it off, had convinced a room full of skeptical millionaires that this crazy idea might actually work. "I need coffee," he announced, "and possibly a nap." "Coffee first," Victoria agreed. "Then we debrief. Figure out next steps." They ended up in her office, sprawled in various states of exhaustion. The view from her windows seemed different now, less intimidating, just a city full of people trying to make it through another day. "Richard liked you," Victoria said to Ethan. "That's rare." He seemed like he was looking for reasons to say no. "He was. That's his job, but you didn't give him any." She pulled out her phone, started typing. "I'm sending an email to all department heads. Full automation rollout starts next quarter. We'll need to expand the team." "Slow down," Ethan said. "We haven't even gotten official approval yet." "We will. Richard doesn't compliment people unless he's already decided to support them. This is happening." Marcus grinned. "Guess that means we're all keeping our jobs." "More than that," Victoria said. "You're all getting raises and promotions once we formalize the new structure." Jennifer looked up sharply. "Seriously? You think I'm joking? You 3 just helped save this company. That deserves recognition." The team left eventually, still buzzing with excitement. Ethan stayed, helping Victoria organize notes for the follow-up report. They worked in comfortable silence, the kind that came from spending too many late nights together in the same space. "Thank you," Victoria said suddenly. "For what?" For making me look good in there. For backing up every claim I've made about this company's potential. You made yourself look good. I just provided data. You provided hope. That's harder to quantify, but infinitely more valuable. She set down her pen, met his eyes. I meant what I said before, about choosing well. You've exceeded every expectation. Even the low ones? She smiled. Especially those. His phone buzzed. Sarah, right on schedule. How did it go? Good. Really good. Tell you later. Emma wants to know if you're coming to her game tomorrow. Tomorrow, Saturday. He'd completely forgotten about Emma's soccer game in the chaos of preparation and presentation. Of course I'm coming. Wouldn't miss it. Victoria was watching him. Everything okay? Yeah, just... Emma has a game tomorrow. I should probably... Go. Yes, definitely go. She paused. Mind if I join you again? Ethan's heart did something complicated. You want to come to another 6-year-old soccer game? I had fun last time, and Emma invited me, technically. She invites everyone. Last week she invited the mailman. And did the mailman show up? No, but... Ethan stopped, tried to read Victoria's expression. You're serious. Why wouldn't I be? Unless you'd rather I didn't. No, you're welcome. Always. He fumbled for his phone. Game's at 9. Same field. I'll be there. That night, Emma was already asleep when he got home. Sarah was camped out on his couch with a knowing expression that made him nervous. So, she said. Really good, huh? The presentation went well. Board was receptive. I meant Victoria, Ethan sighed. There's nothing to mean. She's coming to another soccer game. Because Emma invited her. Emma invites everyone. How many people actually show up? That's what I said. Sarah's smile was insufferable. She likes you. She respects my work. Ethan, I love you, but you're an idiot. She doesn't come to employees' kids' soccer games because she respects their work. She comes because she wants to be there. It's not like that. We're colleagues, friends, maybe. That's it. For now. For always. She's my boss, Sarah. Getting involved would be complicated, messy, potentially amazing. Sarah leaned forward. You're allowed to be happy, you know. You're allowed to want things that aren't just about survival. I have Emma. That's enough. Emma is wonderful, but she's not a replacement for adult companionship, adult connection. You deserve both. Ethan didn't have an answer for that. Went to check on Emma instead, finding her tangled in blankets with her elephant clutched tight. He straightened the covers, kissed her forehead, felt the familiar ache of love mixed with inadequacy. Saturday morning arrived cold and gray, threatening rain. Emma was bouncing off the walls with pre-game energy, practicing her dribbling in the hallway until Ethan gently suggested she save it for the field. Victoria arrived at the park 5 minutes before game time carrying 2 coffee cups. She handed one to Ethan without a word. You didn't have to... I was getting one anyway. Seemed rude not to get you one too. Emma spotted Victoria and came running over, cleats muddy, jersey already grass-stained. You came. I said I would, Victoria replied, and something in her expression softened in a way Ethan had never seen before. Not the CEO smile, not the professional courtesy. Something genuine. We're going to win today, Emma announced confidently. I can feel it. That's the spirit, Victoria said. They didn't win. Lost 3-1, actually, with Emma spending half the game chasing butterflies instead of the ball. But she didn't seem to care, running off the field afterward with the same enthusiasm she'd had running on. Ice cream? She asked hopefully. Ethan checked his watch, almost 11. Don't you want lunch first? Ice cream is lunch. That's not how nutrition works. Please? Emma deployed the gap-toothed smile. Victoria can come too. Victoria glanced at Ethan, a question in her eyes. He should say no, should establish boundaries, maintain professional distance, should remember that this was his boss, not a friend, not anything else. Ice cream sounds good, he heard himself say. They ended up at a place called Sweet Dreams, a local shop that made everything from scratch. Emma ordered chocolate chip cookie dough with gummy bears and sprinkles because apparently nutrition was completely out the window today. Ethan got vanilla. Victoria surprised him by ordering mint chocolate chip. I'm secretly 5 years old, she said at his expression. I don't think 5-year-olds drink that much coffee. Fair point. They sat outside despite the chill, Emma chattering between bites about her plans for Halloween and how she was definitely going to be a dinosaur this year, not a princess, because princesses didn't get to roar. Smart choice, Victoria said seriously. Roaring is important. Do you roar? Emma asked. Sometimes, when people aren't listening. Does Daddy listen? Victoria smiled. Your dad is a very good listener. Emma seemed satisfied with this, turned her attention back to excavating gummy bears from her ice cream. Ethan watched Victoria watch his daughter, saw something he couldn't quite name in her expression. Longing, maybe. Or recognition. Do you have kids? Emma asked suddenly with the blunt curiosity only children could pull off. Victoria stiffened slightly. No, I don't. Why not? Emma, Ethan said gently. That's personal. It's okay, Victoria said. I've been focused on work. Haven't had time for much else. You should make time, Emma said, with the absolute certainty of someone who'd been alive for 6 years. Family is important. Mrs. Chen says so. Mrs. Chen sounds very wise. She is. She makes really good dumplings. After ice cream, Emma wanted to go to the playground. Ethan started to say they should head home, but Victoria spoke first. I could use a walk. Burn off the sugar. So they ended up at the playground, Emma immediately claiming the tallest slide, while Ethan and Victoria sat on a bench watching. She's amazing, Victoria said quietly. You're raising an incredible kid. I'm trying. Most days I feel like I'm barely keeping it together. That's parenthood, I assume, controlled chaos. That's life in general, Victoria laughed. True enough. They sat in comfortable silence, watching Emma make friends with a kid in a Batman costume and immediately launch into an elaborate game involving superheroes and dragons. Can I ask you something? Ethan said. Depends on the question. That thing Emma asked, about kids. I'm sorry if that was... It wasn't. She's curious. Kids are allowed to ask questions adults are too polite to voice. But it bothered you. Victoria was quiet for a moment. I'm 30. Most of my college friends have families now. Kids, houses in the suburbs, normal lives. And she gestured vaguely. I'm running a company, working 80-hour weeks, eating takeout at my desk. Sometimes I wonder if I made the wrong choice. Do you want kids? I don't know. Maybe. Someday. She watched Emma slide down the slide for the 15th time. I used to think I had all the time in the world. Figure out the career first, then deal with the personal stuff. But time moves faster than you think. Tell me about it. Emma's 6. Feels like yesterday she was learning to walk. Do you ever... Victoria stopped herself. What? Nothing. Never mind. Victoria, she sighed. Do you ever regret it? Taking on parenthood alone? Not having a partner to share it with? Ethan thought about this carefully. I regret that Emma doesn't have the family I wanted to give her. 2 parents, stability, normalcy. But do I regret her? Never. Not for a second. Even on the hard days? Especially on the hard days. Because the hard days remind me why I'm fighting. Victoria nodded slowly, processing this. You're a good father, Ethan. I hope you know that. I'm a tired father. Jury's still out on good. Trust me, you're good. Emma ran over, breathless and grinning. Can Victoria come to our house? I want to show her my dinosaur collection. Ethan opened his mouth to make an excuse, but Victoria beat him to it. I'd love to see your dinosaur collection. So they ended up at his apartment, which Ethan suddenly saw through Victoria's eyes. Small. Cluttered with Emma's toys and his work papers. The couch had a permanent indent from where he collapsed every night. The kitchen table was covered in Emma's art projects. It was nothing like where Victoria probably lived. Nothing impressive or polished. Just real life in all its messy, imperfect glory. But Victoria didn't seem to care. She sat on the floor with Emma, examining plastic dinosaurs with the same attention she gave quarterly reports, asking questions about which ones were herbivores and which were carnivores, laughing when Emma made them roar and attack each other. Ethan made coffee, watching from the kitchen. This felt dangerous. Not bad dangerous, but the kind of dangerous that came from wanting something you couldn't have, from seeing possibilities that logic said were impossible. His phone rang. Sarah. Hey. He answered quietly. Hey yourself, how was the game? We lost. Emma doesn't care. And Victoria? She's... He glanced into the living room where Victoria was now being taught the proper way to make a T-Rex roar. She's playing dinosaurs with Emma. Silence on the other end. Then, oh, Ethan. Don't. Don't what? Don't point out that this is clearly more than just professional courtesy? It's complicated. Life is complicated, doesn't mean you avoid it. After Sarah hung up, Ethan brought coffee into the living room. Victoria accepted hers gratefully, still sitting cross-legged on his floor like it was the most natural thing in the world. Your turn, Emma announced, handing Ethan a stegosaurus. You're the plant eater. Victoria and I are the scary ones. They played dinosaurs for 20 minutes. It was ridiculous. It was perfect. And when Emma finally got distracted by something on TV, leaving Ethan and Victoria alone in the relative quiet, he felt the shift in the air. I should probably go, Victoria said, but she didn't move. You don't have to. I know, but staying feels dangerous? She met his eyes. Yeah. Why? Because this, she gestured between them. This feels real, and I don't do real very well. Could have fooled me. Ethan. Her voice was soft. I'm your boss. We work together. Getting involved would complicate everything. Who said anything about getting involved? We're just... He struggled for the word. Friends. Can't we just be friends? Is that what we are? He didn't know how to answer that. Because friends didn't text each other at 2 a.m. Friends didn't show up to each other's kids' soccer games. Friends didn't look at each other the way he was looking at Victoria right now, like she was the first real thing he'd seen in months. I don't know what we are, he admitted, but I know I like having you around. Emma likes having you around. That's enough, isn't it? Victoria stood, and for a terrible moment Ethan thought she was leaving, running, putting the walls back up and retreating to the safety of professional distance. But she didn't leave. Just walked to his window, looked out at the street below. When I took over the company, she said quietly, I promised myself I wouldn't let personal feelings interfere with business decisions. Wouldn't get close to employees, wouldn't blur lines, wouldn't risk the kind of complications that could undermine my authority. That's reasonable. It's lonely. She turned to face him. I've been lonely for so long, I forgot what the alternative felt like. And then I had dinner with you, and suddenly I remembered. Ethan's heart was pounding. Victoria, I can't promise this won't be complicated. Can't promise I won't mess it up, won't hurt you, won't let work consume everything like I always do. She took a breath. But I want to try. If you're willing to risk it. Risk what, exactly? This, us, whatever this is becoming. Emma chose that moment to run back into the room, oblivious to the tension. Victoria, you have to see my room. I have glow-in-the-dark stars. Victoria smiled, the moment breaking but not shattering. Lead the way. She followed Emma down the hall, leaving Ethan standing in his living room trying to process what had just happened. Victoria Hale, Billionaire CEO, had just admitted she wanted, what? A relationship? A friendship? Something undefined and risky and real? His phone buzzed. Victoria, texting from Emma's room. Still scared? He typed back. Terrified. You? Same. But maybe that's okay. Maybe it is. When Victoria finally left an hour later, Emma hugged her goodbye like they'd known each other forever. Ethan walked her to her car, the evening air crisp and smelling of autumn. Thank you, Victoria said, for today, for letting me be part of this. Thank you for wanting to be part of it. She unlocked her car but didn't get in. Monday's going to be weird, isn't it? Probably. We'll figure it out. Yeah, we will. She drove away and Ethan stood watching until her taillights disappeared. Inside, Emma was already asking when Victoria could come over again. And Ethan realized he wanted the same thing, wanted to see where this impossible thing might lead. Dangerous? Absolutely. Worth the risk? He was starting to think it might be. Monday morning brought a new kind of nervousness. Ethan had faced board presentations, hostile meetings, career-defining moments. But walking into the office knowing that everything with Victoria had shifted into uncharted territory, that was different. He spotted her in the lobby, talking with someone from accounting. She glanced up, caught his eye, and for a fraction of a second, her professional mask slipped. Just a small smile, barely there, but it sent his pulse racing. Then she was back to business, nodding at whatever the accountant was saying, and Ethan continued to the elevator feeling like he'd imagined the whole thing. His phone buzzed before the doors closed. Conference room B, 10 minutes. Bring coffee. He smiled despite himself. Brought 2 cups up to the 23rd floor, found her already there with project files spread across the table. Close the door, she said without looking up. He did. Set her coffee down. We're really doing this at work? Doing what? She was still reading, pen in hand, making notes in the margins. Victoria. She looked up then, and the professional facade cracked just enough to let him see the uncertainty underneath. I don't know how to do this, Ethan. Personal and professional. I'm not good at separating them. So don't separate them. That's a terrible idea. Probably. He sat across from her. But trying to pretend Saturday didn't happen? That's worse. She set down her pen. The board approved the automation expansion. Full rollout, all departments. Richard called this morning. That's great. He processed. Wait, this morning? It's barely 8:30. He wanted to catch me before the official announcement. Said some of the board members are concerned about the pace of implementation. Want to make sure we're not overextending. Are we? Honestly, maybe. But standing still isn't an option either. She pulled up a timeline on her laptop. I need you to prioritize departments. Which ones get the rollout first? Which ones can wait? They spent the next hour working through logistics, falling into the rhythm they'd developed over the past weeks. It was easier to talk about work than about whatever was happening between them. Safer. But when the meeting ended and Victoria walked him to the door, she touched his arm, just briefly. Dinner this week? She asked quietly. Actual dinner. Not pizza with a 6-year-old, not a working meal, just us. Like a date? I don't know what to call it, but yes, like a date. Ethan's schedule was already packed. Emma had practice Tuesday and Thursday, a school event Wednesday. He should say no, should prioritize his daughter, should not be making plans with his boss that had nothing to do with work. Friday, he said. I can do Friday. Friday works. She hesitated. Is this insane? Tell me honestly. Completely insane. But you're doing it anyway. Apparently I'm bad at self-preservation. She smiled. Same. The week crawled and sprinted simultaneously. Work consumed most of Ethan's daylight hours. Meetings with department heads, training sessions for the new automation systems, endless troubleshooting when things inevitably broke. David was pulling miracles with the technical side, but even he couldn't prevent every glitch. Emma's soccer team got a new assistant coach on Tuesday, a friendly woman named Michelle, who seemed competent and enthusiastic. Emma liked her immediately, which should have made Ethan happy. Instead, he felt a weird pang of something like jealousy that someone else was stepping into the space Victoria had briefly occupied. He mentioned this to Sarah Wednesday night when she came over to watch Emma so he could finish a report. You're territorial about Victoria, Sarah observed. Too perceptive as always. I'm not territorial. I'm just jealous that someone else is coaching Emma's team. When you say it like that, it sounds ridiculous. Because it is ridiculous. Sarah pulled out her laptop, ostensibly to work on her own projects, but really to interrogate him. You're falling for her. I'm not. We've known each other for 3 weeks. You've known each other for 5 years. You just started actually seeing each other 3 weeks ago. That's different. Is it? You've been orbiting in the same space all this time. Sometimes it just takes the right moment for gravity to kick in. Ethan rubbed his face. This is a bad idea. She's my boss. If it goes wrong, then it goes wrong. But what if it goes right? I don't know how to do this, Sarah. I haven't dated since the divorce. Haven't wanted to. And now suddenly He gestured helplessly. I have a kid. I have responsibilities. You can't just what? Be happy? Want something for yourself? Sarah's voice gentled. Emma wants you to be happy too, you know. She talks about Victoria constantly, about how nice she is, how she actually listens when Emma talks about dinosaurs. That doesn't mean... It means Victoria fits, Ethan. Into your life, into Emma's life. That's rare. Don't throw it away because you're scared. Thursday brought a crisis at work. One of the automation systems crashed during peak hours. taking down operations for 3 departments. Ethan spent the entire day firefighting, coordinating with David to restore functionality, fielding angry calls from managers who'd been promised this would make their lives easier, not harder. Victoria appeared in his temporary office around 7 p.m., when most people had gone home. She looked as exhausted as he felt. "How bad?" she asked. "Bad. We lost 6 hours of productivity. David thinks he's found the bug, but we need to do a full system audit before we can guarantee it won't happen again." "The board's going to love this." "Richard specifically?" "Richard specifically." She sank into a chair. "He called. Wanted to know if we'd rush the implementation. If maybe we should slow down." "What did you tell him?" "That every new system has growing pains, that we anticipated setbacks and have contingencies in place." She met his eyes. "Was I lying?" "No. We do have contingencies, but this kind of failure, it damages trust. People were just starting to believe in the system. Can we fix it?" "We can fix the technical problem. Fixing trust? That's harder." They sat in silence for a moment. Outside the window, the city lights were coming on, offices emptying, people heading home to families and lives and normal Thursday night routines. "We should cancel tomorrow," Victoria said quietly. Ethan's stomach dropped. "The dinner?" "It's bad timing. With this crisis, with the board breathing down our necks." "Victoria, if we only make plans when work is calm, we'll never make plans." "But no." He surprised himself with the firmness in his voice. "Work is always going to be chaotic. There's always going to be a crisis, a deadline, a reason to put everything else on hold. But if we do that, we're just proving everyone right who said we can't balance personal and professional." She looked at him for a long moment. "You're right. I usually am. You should get used to that." Cocky. Confident. There's a difference. She smiled, tired but genuine. "Friday, 7 o'clock? I'll be there." "Where is there exactly?" "Let me surprise you." "I don't like surprises." "You'll like this one." Friday arrived with more technical problems. David worked through the night and managed to patch the system, but everyone was on edge. Ethan spent the morning reassuring department heads that, yes, the automation was still a good idea. No, they weren't giving up on it. Marcus found him at lunch, looking concerned. "You good, man? You've been running ragged all week." "I'm fine." "You're a terrible liar. What's going on?" Ethan glanced around the break room. Nobody seemed to be paying attention, but rumors spread fast in this place. "Can we talk? Somewhere private?" They ended up in Marcus's car in the parking garage because apparently that's what work friendships looked like when you needed to have a real conversation. "I'm seeing Victoria," Ethan said without preamble. Marcus's eyes went wide. Seeing, like dating." "Maybe. We're having dinner tonight. First real date, I guess." "Holy hell. I knew something was going on, but wow." Marcus processed this. "Are you insane?" "Probably. Does HR know?" "There's nothing to tell HR yet. It's just dinner." "Carter, you work for her. She's the CEO. This isn't just dinner." "I know, but Ethan struggled to articulate it. "I can't not try. There's something there, Marcus. Something real. And if it blows up in your face, what then?" "Then it blows up. But at least I tried." Marcus shook his head. "You're either the bravest guy I know or the dumbest. Possibly both." "Thanks for the vote of confidence." "Hey, I'm rooting for you, truly. She seems different around you. Less robot, more human." "She was never a robot. To us, she was. But you see something else. That counts for something." Ethan left work at 5, went home to shower and change, and try to calm his nerves. Emma was with Sarah for the night, had left him a note written in crayon. "Have fun with Victoria. Remember to say please and thank you." He smiled despite the anxiety churning in his stomach. His daughter reminding him of manners like he was the 6-year-old. The restaurant he'd chosen was a small French place in the Arts District, the kind of spot that didn't advertise because it didn't need to. Victoria arrived right on time, wearing a dress that was still professional, but softer somehow, her hair down around her shoulders. She looked nervous. It made Ethan feel slightly better. "This is nice. she said, glancing around. How did you find it? Sarah's recommendation. She says the coco vin is incredible. Your sister has good taste. They sat, ordered wine, and suddenly the easy conversation that flowed so naturally at work dried up completely. They were both too aware of what this was, what it meant. This is weird, Victoria said finally. Extremely weird. Should we talk about work? Absolutely not. That's against the rules. What rules? Date rules. No work talk? No ex talk? No. He stopped. Actually, I don't know the rules. I'm terrible at this. Same. She took a sip of wine. The last real date I went on was 3 years ago. It ended with him asking for an introduction to my CFO. That's awful. That's my life. Everyone wants something. I don't want anything from you. Professionally, I mean. I'm already leading the biggest project of my career. What more could you give me? People always want more. Victoria. He waited until she met his eyes. I'm here because I like you. Not your position, not your money, not what you can do for my career. You. The person who plays dinosaurs with my daughter and texts me at 2 a.m. about presentation slides and admits when she's scared. Her eyes glistened. How do you do that? Do what? Say exactly the right thing. Trust me, it's not intentional. I'm usually saying the wrong thing at the wrong time. The food arrived, giving them both a moment to regroup. The coco vin was as good as Sarah promised. They ate and talked about everything except work. Books, movies, Emma's conviction that dinosaurs were superior to all other animals. She's not wrong, Victoria said. Dinosaurs are objectively cool. You would have loved her presentation last month. Full PowerPoint about why T-Rex is the best dinosaur. She used pie charts. Where did she learn to make pie charts? She watches me work sometimes, absorbs everything like a sponge. She's going to be terrifying when she grows up. I know, I'm already saving for the therapy I'll need when she's a teenager. Victoria laughed, really laughed, and Ethan felt something settle in his chest. This was good. This was right. Halfway through dinner, Victoria's phone rang. She glanced at it, grimaced. It's Richard. You should answer. On a date? Absolutely not. Victoria, he can leave a voicemail. I'm allowed to have one night off. But when her phone rang again 30 seconds later, she sighed. I'm sorry. This might be important. She answered, listened, her expression growing more serious. When? How bad? A pause. I'll be there in 20 minutes. She hung up, already standing. There's been an accident at the manufacturing facility. One of the automated systems malfunctioned. 3 people are injured. Ethan was on his feet. How serious? Richard didn't know details, but if he's calling me personally... She didn't finish the sentence. I have to go. I'm coming with you. Ethan, you don't... Those are my systems, my project. If something went wrong, I need to know. They took her car, Victoria driving with the kind of controlled urgency that suggested she'd done this before. The manufacturing facility was 30 minutes outside the city, a sprawling complex that ran 24/7. The parking lot was full of emergency vehicles when they arrived. Ambulances, fire trucks, police cars. Victoria's face went white. They found the facility manager, a man named Tom, who looked like he'd aged 10 years in the past hour. Ms. Hale, thank you for coming. What happened? One of the new automated assembly systems. It was running fine, and then... He gestured helplessly. The safety protocols failed. The emergency stop didn't engage. By the time we got power cut manually, 3 workers were hurt. How badly? 2 minor injuries, 1 serious. She's being airlifted to the city hospital now. Ethan felt sick. The system was supposed to have redundant safety measures, triple redundancy. It did. They all failed simultaneously. Victoria's jaw was tight. I want a full investigation. Shut down every automated system until we know what happened. I don't care if it costs us production time. Safety first. Already done. The union rep is on site. They're not happy. I wouldn't be either. Get me a list of the injured workers. I'm going to the hospital. Ethan followed her to the car. She was shaking, he realized. Not obviously, but her hands trembled as she unlocked the door. Hey, he said softly. This isn't your fault. Isn't it? I pushed for faster implementation, ignored the warnings that we needed more testing time. We did testing, months of it. Clearly not enough. They drove to the hospital in silence. The injured woman, her name was Patricia Martinez, they learned, was in surgery. Serious but stable, the doctor said. The other two had been treated and released. Victoria insisted on staying until Patricia was out of surgery, pacing the waiting room like a caged animal. Ethan got coffee they didn't drink, made calls to David and the rest of the team to start the investigation. Around midnight, Patricia's husband arrived. He was maybe 45, exhausted and scared, and when he saw Victoria, he went rigid. "You're the CEO." "I am. Mr. Martinez, I'm so sorry about your wife. We're doing everything. You're the one who pushed these systems. Everyone said they weren't ready, but you didn't listen." Victoria absorbed this like a physical blow. "You're right. I should have listened. My wife might lose her arm because you wanted to impress your board." "Mr. Martinez," Ethan started, but Victoria held up a hand. "He's right. This is on me." She met Martinez's eyes. "I'm going to fix this, whatever it takes, and I'm covering all medical expenses, lost wages, everything. That's not negotiable." "You think money fixes this?" "No, nothing fixes this, but it's what I can do." Martinez stared at her for a long moment, then collapsed into a chair. "They said she's going to be okay. Surgery went well." "I'm glad, truly." Victoria sat down next to him, maintaining careful distance. "I know you have no reason to trust me, but I promise you I will find out what happened, and I will make sure it never happens again." They stayed until 3 a.m. when Patricia was moved to recovery and the doctors confirmed she would keep her arm, though she'd need extensive physical therapy. Mr. Martinez softened slightly, allowing Victoria to sit with him while they waited for an update. Ethan watched her with Patricia's family and saw something that confirmed what he'd suspected all along. Underneath the CEO armor, Victoria cared deeply. Too deeply, maybe. She was taking this failure personally in a way that went beyond business liability. When they finally left the hospital, dawn was starting to break. Victoria drove them back to the city in silence, her face drawn and exhausted. "I need to suspend the entire automation program," she said quietly. "What?" "No, one malfunction doesn't—" 3 people got hurt, Ethan. One of them might not fully recover. How can I justify moving forward? Because one accident doesn't invalidate the entire concept. We investigate, we fix the flaw, we implement better safeguards. And if it happens again, then we'll have failed. But shutting down now, that guarantees failure. She pulled over, put the car in park. They were somewhere in the industrial district, warehouses dark and silent around them. I can't risk more people getting hurt. You're not risking people. Systems fail sometimes. That's why we have safety protocols, insurance, emergency procedures. The safety protocols failed. One set of protocols. We can build better ones. Victoria's hands were still on the steering wheel, knuckles white. What if I'm not capable of this? Of balancing innovation with safety, progress with caution? You are capable. Tonight proved it. You could have sent a subordinate to the hospital, could have handled this through lawyers and PR. Instead, you showed up personally, stayed with that family, took responsibility. Because it is my responsibility. Exactly, and you don't run from it. Ethan reached over, gently pried her hands from the wheel. We'll figure this out, together. That's why you have a team. She looked at their joined hands. Our first date ended in a hospital waiting room. Technically, it ended in your car in a warehouse district at 5 a.m. That's not much better. No, but at least we're consistent. Nothing about us is conventional. She laughed, tired and slightly hysterical. This is insane, Ethan. All of it. The project, us, everything. Probably. You want to stop? The project or us? Either, both. Victoria was quiet for a long moment. No, I don't want to stop. Me neither. She drove him home as the sun came up, neither of them speaking, but the silence comfortable now. When she pulled up to his building, Ethan hesitated before getting out. Thank you, he said, for letting me be there tonight. Thank you for insisting on coming. She stopped. I would have handled that badly alone. No, you wouldn't have, but you didn't have to. He kissed her, just briefly, softly, a question more than a statement. She kissed him back, her hand coming up to his face, And for a moment, the exhaustion and stress and fear all faded into just this: two people who'd found each other in the least likely way possible. When they broke apart, Victoria was smiling. "Worst first date ever. We should try again." "When?" "When we fix this mess. When Patricia Martinez is recovering and the systems are safe and the board stops breathing down our necks." So never, basically. Or next week, whichever comes first. The investigation took 3 days. David found the flaw: a software conflict between the automation system and the facility's existing safety infrastructure. It should have been caught in testing, would have been caught if they'd had another month of trials, but they'd rushed, and people had paid the price. Victoria held a press conference, taking full responsibility. The board was furious, Richard calling for her resignation, but Victoria stood firm, presenting a comprehensive safety review and new implementation timeline that prioritized worker protection over speed. "If the board wants someone who puts profits over people," she said in the executive meeting Ethan wasn't supposed to know about, but heard from Marcus anyway, "they can find a new CEO, but I'm not sacrificing safety for quarterly earnings. Not now, not ever." The board backed down. Barely. But they backed down. Patricia Martinez made steady progress. Victoria visited her twice, bringing flowers and genuine apologies. Patricia's husband was slower to forgive, but he stopped looking at Victoria like she was a monster. 2 weeks after the accident, the revised automation system passed every safety test David could throw at it. The union signed off. The board grudgingly approved a slower rollout, and Emma's soccer team made it to the local playoffs. "You have to come," Emma insisted when Ethan told her about the championship game. "And Victoria, too. We need all the cheering we can get." "Baby, Victoria's really busy with work." "So, you're busy too, but you're still coming, right?" "Of course." "Then Victoria can come too." Ethan texted Victoria that night. "Emma wants you at her championship game Saturday. No pressure." The response came back immediately. "What time?" Saturday was cold and bright, the kind of autumn day that felt like a promise. Emma was vibrating with excitement, convinced her team was definitely going to win because she could feel it in her bones. Victoria arrived carrying hot chocolate for all three of them. She'd brought a blanket too, the kind meant for outdoor sporting events. And when Emma launched herself at Victoria in a full-body hug, Ethan saw something on Victoria's face he'd never seen before: pure, uncomplicated joy. They sat together on the bleachers, Emma between them chattering non-stop about strategy and plays, and how Mia was definitely going to score the winning goal, because she was the fastest runner. The game was close. Emma's team was down 1-0 at halftime, and Emma came over to the bleachers looking discouraged. "We're losing," she said, like this was a personal betrayal. "You're not losing yet," Victoria said. "You're down 1 goal with a whole half to play. That's just motivation." "But what if we lose?" "Then you lose, but you'll have played your best, and that's what matters." Emma considered this. "Coach says the same thing." "Coach is smart." In the second half, Emma played like she was possessed. She didn't score. That honor went to Mia twice, but she assisted on 1 goal and played defense like her life depended on it. When the final whistle blew and her team had won 3-2, Emma screamed so loud Ethan worried about his hearing. They went for pizza after, as tradition demanded. This time Marcus came too, having shown up to the game with 0 explanation and a sign that said, "Go Emma, number 7, in letters covered with glitter. "You made a sign?" Ethan asked. "Obviously. Championship game deserves a sign." At the pizzeria, Emma held court, recounting every moment of the game with the kind of detail that suggested she thought nobody else had been watching. Marcus played along, Victoria asked intelligent questions, and Ethan just sat back watching his worlds collide in the best possible way. "Your family's bugs nice," Emma announced to Victoria. "I don't have family here, sweetheart. Just friends." "Well, you have us now." "Right, Daddy?" Ethan met Victoria's eyes across the table. "Right, she has us." Victoria's expression did something complicated, soft and scared and hopeful all at once. "I'd like that." Later, after Marcus left and Emma was sufficiently pizza drunk, they walked to the park. Emma ran ahead to the playground, leaving Ethan and Victoria alone on a bench watching the sunset paint the sky in oranges and purples. "I talked to Patricia Martinez yesterday," Victoria said quietly. "She's starting physical therapy next week." "That's great." "She doesn't blame me. I don't know why, but she doesn't. Because you showed up, because you owned the mistake. That matters to people. The board approved the revised automation timeline. Slower implementation, more safety testing. It's going to take twice as long as the original plan. But it'll be done right. Richard pulled me aside after the meeting, said he respects what I did, standing firm on the safety measures, taking responsibility publicly. He said most CEOs would have blamed the contractor or the equipment manufacturer. You're not most CEOs. No, I'm the CEO who almost destroyed her career for a principal. That's not a bad thing to be. Victoria leaned against him, and Ethan put his arm around her shoulders. It felt natural now, this physical closeness, like they'd been doing it for years instead of weeks. Emma called me family, Victoria said. She did. Do you think that's too fast? Emma has never met a stranger. She makes friends in 30 seconds and considers them family in 5 minutes. So I shouldn't read into it. I didn't say that. Ethan tightened his arm around her. She sees what I see, someone who fits, someone who belongs. With you? With us. Victoria turned to look at him, and in the fading light she looked young and vulnerable and absolutely beautiful. I've never belonged anywhere. Not really. The corporate world tolerates me because I deliver results. But belonging, that's different. You belong here. With us. If you want to. I want to. That terrifies me. Same, but maybe that's okay. Emma came running over, grass-stained and grinning. Can Victoria come to our house? It's movie night, and Daddy always picks boring movies. I do not pick boring movies. You picked that one about the guy who talked to volleyballs. That's a classic, Victoria laughed. I would love to come to movie night. They ended up on Ethan's couch with Emma between them, watching some animated movie about a princess who didn't need rescuing because she rescued herself. Emma fell asleep halfway through, curled against Victoria's side like it was the most natural thing in the world. I should go, Victoria whispered. Let you put her to bed. Stay, please. Ethan, not for... I just mean stay. Watch the rest of the movie. Have some tea. Stay. So she stayed. Ethan carried Emma to bed, came back to find Victoria examining his bookshelf with the kind of focus she usually reserved for quarterly reports. You have good taste, she observed. I would have expected more business books. Those are in my bedroom. This is the fun stuff. So you separate work and pleasure. I approve. He made tea and they sat on opposite ends of the couch with mugs warming their hands. The movie was still playing, but neither was watching. Can I ask you something? Victoria said. Always. Where do you see this going? Us, I mean. Ethan took a breath. Honestly, I don't know. I've been in survival mode for so long I stopped thinking about the future beyond next week. But with you? He paused. With you, I want to think about the future. That's new. Good new or scary new? Both. Mostly good. Victoria set down her mug. I'm not easy, Ethan. I work too much. I struggle with work-life balance. I'm not maternal. I'm not domestic. I'm not... You're perfect for me. Exactly as you are. I play dinosaurs with your daughter for 2 hours. I don't know what I'm doing. Neither do I. But we're figuring it out together, and Emma loves you. That's enough. What about you? The question hung in the air between them. Ethan could deflect, could make a joke, could take the easy way out. Or he could be honest. I'm falling for you, he said quietly. Have been since that disaster of a first date. Maybe even before that. And it scares the hell out of me because I have Emma to think about. And I can't afford to get this wrong. But I also can't afford to let fear stop me from reaching for something real. Victoria's eyes were bright. I'm falling for you too. You and Emma both. My whole life I've been told I'm too focused, too driven, too career-oriented for a relationship. And then you showed me that maybe I was just waiting for people who understood that work matters to me, who didn't ask me to be less than I am. I would never ask you to be less. I know, that's why this works. She kissed him then, properly this time, without the exhaustion of crisis or the nervousness of first attempts. Just two people who'd found each other through the chaos and decided to hold on. When they broke apart, Victoria was smiling. We still haven't had a successful normal date. Who needs normal? We're doing fine without it. Next time I want to plan it. Somewhere nice, no emergencies, no interruptions. I'll believe it when I see it. Challenge accepted. 3 months later, the automation program was running smoothly across all departments. The cost savings exceeded projections, employee satisfaction was up, and even Richard had grudgingly admitted that Victoria's leadership through the crisis had been exemplary. Ethan's team had expanded. He had an office now, on the same floor as Victoria, with a door that actually closed and a window that looked out over the city. Emma's drawing of a T-Rex was tacked to his wall next to his project timelines, and Victoria had finally managed to plan that normal date. Dinner at a restaurant with no work emergencies, no phone calls, just 2 hours of conversation and good food and the easy companionship they'd built through late nights and crisis management and Emma's soccer games. "I have something to tell you," Victoria said over dessert. Ethan's stomach tightened. Good something or bad something? Good, I think. She took a breath. The board offered me a contract extension. 5 years, full control over strategic direction. Victoria, that's amazing. I accepted, on one condition. What condition? That I get to maintain reasonable work hours. No more 80-hour weeks, no more sacrificing personal life for quarterly earnings. They weren't happy about it, but they agreed. Why? Because I want a life, Ethan. A real one. With you and Emma, with friends and hobbies and movie nights. I've spent 10 years building a career. I want to spend the next 10 building everything else. Ethan reached across the table, took her hand. I want that too. Yeah? Yeah. 6 months after that, on a Saturday morning at Emma's soccer game, Victoria stood on the sidelines next to Ethan and made an announcement. I'm coaching next season, she said. Ethan nearly dropped his coffee. What? Michelle is moving. The team needs a new assistant coach. I volunteered. You volunteered to coach 7-year-olds in soccer. Why not? I have the time now. And Emma asked me to. Of course she did. Emma scored a goal. Actually scored, not by accident, and came running over to celebrate. She hugged Ethan first, then Victoria, then announced to anyone who would listen that Victoria was going to be her coach. You know you don't have to do this, Ethan told Victoria later when Emma was distracted by post-game snacks. I know, I want to. Why? Victoria looked at Emma, laughing with her teammates, then back at Ethan. Because this is my family now, you and Emma, and family shows up for each other. A year after their terrible first date at Romano's, Ethan and Victoria were back at the same restaurant. Emma was with Sarah for the night, giving them a rare evening alone. Remember this? Victoria asked, gesturing at the checkered tablecloths and red candles. How could I forget? I thought my life was over when you walked through that door. I thought the same thing. Turns out we were both wrong. Best wrong I've ever been. They'd settled into something that worked, a relationship built on honesty, respect, and the understanding that neither of them was perfect, but together they were better. Ethan still worked too hard sometimes, still struggled to balance fatherhood and career. Victoria still got consumed by projects, still had to consciously remember to disconnect from work. But they navigated it together. Victoria came to every soccer game, helped Emma with homework that was well below her educational level, but which she approached with the same seriousness as quarterly reports. Ethan learned to recognize when Victoria needed space, when work stress was building, when to push and when to let her process. And Emma thrived with 2 adults who both loved her fiercely and showed her different ways of being strong. I got the promotion, Ethan said over dinner. Official title, corner office, the works. Director of Innovation. It suits you. Couldn't have done it without you. You could have. You just didn't have the opportunity before. Victoria smiled. I'm proud of you. That means a lot. I mean it. What you've built. Not just the automation program, but the culture around it. The way you've shown that efficiency and humanity aren't mutually exclusive. That's special. We built it together. Partners? In everything. After dinner, they walked through the city, hand in hand, just 2 more people navigating the crowds and the chaos. No different from anyone else, except they'd found each other against improbable odds and decided to hold on. Emma asked me something yesterday, Victoria said. What? If I was going to marry her daddy. Ethan stopped walking. What did you tell her? I told her that was a question for grown-ups to figure out in their own time. Victoria turned to face him. But between you and me? I'd like to. Eventually, when we're both ready. Eventually sounds good. Yeah? Yeah. They kept walking, and somewhere between the restaurant and Ethan's apartment, somewhere between what they'd been and what they were becoming, the future stopped being scary and started being just another adventure they'd navigate together. Emma was waiting when they got home, bursting with energy despite it being past her bedtime. Sarah gave them an apologetic look. She wouldn't sleep until you got back. Something about needing to show Victoria her new drawing. The drawing was of 3 people, a tall man, a tall woman, and a small girl in the middle holding both their hands. Above them, Emma had written in careful letters, "My family." Victoria's eyes filled with tears. "Emma, this is beautiful. It's us, all of us together." "I can see that. We're a family now, right?" Victoria crouched down to Emma's level. "Yes, sweetheart. We're a family." "Good, because I love you." "I love you too." Ethan watched them hug, his daughter, and the woman he'd thought was his enemy barely 2 months ago, and felt something settle into place. This was it. This imperfect, complicated, absolutely right configuration of people who'd found each other through chaos and decided to build something together. Later, after Emma was finally asleep, and Sarah had gone home, and Victoria was getting ready to leave, Ethan caught her at the door. "Stay," he said. "I should get home." "I know. But stay anyway." She stayed. And in the morning when Emma found them both at the breakfast table, she didn't ask questions, just climbed into Victoria's lap like she'd been doing it her whole life, and started talking about what costume she wanted for Halloween. "I'm thinking astronaut this year," Emma announced, "because dinosaurs were last year and I want to try something new." "Astronauts are excellent," Victoria agreed solemnly. "Very scientific. Will you help me make the costume?" "Absolutely." Ethan made pancakes and coffee, listened to Emma and Victoria plan an elaborate astronaut costume complete with a helmet made from a cardboard box, and thought about how far they'd all come. From that terrible blind date to this, Saturday morning pancakes and Halloween planning, and the comfortable domesticity he'd thought he'd never have again. His phone buzzed. "Sarah, how did it go?" He looked at Victoria, helping Emma draw planets on a piece of paper, and typed back, "Perfect. Absolutely perfect." Because it wasn't perfect. Not really. There would be more crises at work, more late nights, more moments of doubt and fear, but they'd face them together, him and Victoria and Emma, and that made all the difference. The blind date his sister had forced him into had turned out to be exactly what he needed, just not in any way he could have predicted. Not a perfect romance, not a fairy tale ending, but something real and messy and absolutely right. And sometimes, Ethan thought as he watched his daughter teach Victoria the proper way to draw Saturn's rings, sometimes the best things in life were the ones you never saw coming.